Chapter 327, -155. The only male cultivator of the 10,000 flowers, sect 1,200 monthly tickets extra. The cultivators around gasped in unison, their eyes filled with disbelief. The sect protection array of the 10,000 flowers sect is so powerful. This sect protection array was set up by Lu Yi. His level in array Tao might have even reached that of a great Mahayana array cultivator, which is terrifying. The 10,000 flowers sect was in turmoil before, but with such a sect protection array, there is no longer any worry. A group of cultivators discussed animatedly. Then someone thought of a problem and said, however, Lu Yi killed the unification great powers from the primordial Yang sect, the Qin family, and the Forget River Valley. Their people probably won't let this go. So what if they won't let it go? With such a great array protecting us, even if a great Mahayana ancestor came, it would be useless. What if they target Lu Yi instead of the 10,000 flowers sect? If Lu Yi were so easy to target, he would have been captured by the host of great powers the last time he returned from the divine sword sect. Last time so many great powers couldn't capture him, it will probably also be difficult this time. Wait until he returns to the White Cloud sect. Who would dare to enter the White Cloud sect to take him? Not only that, how do you know that the reclusive powerhouse from the White Cloud sect isn't with Lu Yi? Given Lu Yi's talents, he is almost certain to ascend to immortality in the future, and probably not just as any ordinary immortal. It wouldn't be surprising if a tribulation-crossing practitioner decided to be his guardian. At these words, everyone fell silent immediately. All the cultivators were startled, looking around, afraid that a tribulation-crossing ancestor might be lurking in the dark, guarding Lu Yi. After killing 4 unification great powers, Lu Yi returned to the gate of the sect. At this moment, Granny Hua and the other powerhouses had just come to their senses, full of amazement. The sect protection array is indeed so powerful. A supreme elder expressed immense joy. Even Granny Hua felt the same. Although she knew Lu Yi had used many unification realm materials, and his level in array Tao was extremely high, even Granny Hua hadn't thought that Lu Yi could create such a terrifying sect protection array. Lu Yi said with a smile, this sect protection array can withstand the attacks of great Mahayana powers. If any great Mahayana dares to enter the array, they can also be killed. This made all the power holders of the 10,000 flowers sect even more thrilled. With this array, our 10,000 flowers sect has no worries, Granny Hua sighed. Lu Yi thought for a moment, then said, now that I have killed 4 unification great powers, I have deterred some forces, and they probably won't dare to mess with the 10,000 flowers sect. However, this has offended the primordial Yang sect, the Qin family, and the Forget River Valley. Although they can't come to the 10,000 flowers sect, if the disciples of the 10,000 flowers sect go out, they might also be in danger. This made Granny Hua and several supreme elders nod as well, their expressions a bit worried. An old woman sighed, alas, these great sects, their territories have been occupied by the Sea Clan. They dare not fight the Sea Clan but instead want to encroach on our territories. It's truly hateful. The others nodded repeatedly, expressing anger. Especially the primordial Yang sect, practicing dual cultivation evil skills. It's pitiful that consecutive disciples of our sect have gone missing. They must be behind it. Granny Hua's expression was equally icy, yet she felt helpless. She said, if we have to, we might as well close the mountain and the sect for some time, waiting for this turmoil to pass. A supreme elder also nodded. With the sect protection array drawn by our friend Lu Yi, even if we close the mountain, we'll still be safe. The supreme elders and Granny Hua engaged in heated discussions. In his heart, Lu Yi actually agreed with Granny Hua's idea, especially since Qingju was too chaotic now. Just thinking about how Lu Yi had to fight his way to the 10,000 flowers sect from the territory of the White Cloud sect showed how chaotic it was. The female cultivators of the 10,000 flowers sect were as lovely and enchanting as sprites among flowers, making it too dangerous for them to go out at such a time. After closing the mountain, safe cultivation would indeed be more secure. Lu Yi responded with a smile, if so, that would be best. Granny Hua glanced at Lu Yi, then at Xianxia and said with a smile, why don't you stay as well, Yi? Lu Yi was taken aback, looked at Xianxia, and saw that she was looking at him with hopeful eyes. After thinking it over, he said, then I'll stay for a few days. This made Xianxia reveal a happy smile. Granny Hua and the Supreme Elders also showed smiles. Granny Hua said, after today's great battle you must be tired. Why not go back with Yunzai first? Lu Yi nodded. Yunzai, holding Lu Yi's arm, led him towards the inner parts of the sect. Along the way, Lu Yi noticed that all the cultivators of the 10,000 Flowers sect were watching him, their clear, spirited eyes filled with unspeakable admiration and excitement. Everyone's gaze was so intense, it was almost as if they wanted to swallow Lu Yi whole, making his scalp tingle. There were indeed over 100,000 members in the 10,000 Flowers sect. With so many people looking at him that way, even Lu Yi felt overwhelmed. It almost felt like he had entered a den of wolves. Yunzai noticed this too, slightly furrowed her brows and wrapped her arms around Lu Yi's arm, saying, "Lu Yi, let's hurry." Lu Yi was surprised and glanced at Yunzai, his face showing a puzzled expression. "Are you jealous?" Yunzai thought about it, then said, "Yes, a bit uncomfortable." Lu Yi. True to Yunzai, she was still so straightforward. Lu Yi chuckled, then quickly headed towards the cave mansion with Yunzai. Back in the cave mansion, Lu Yi didn't say another word and carried Yunzai into the room. The way Yunzai had clung to his arm earlier had already given him ideas, but he had restrained himself outside. "Ah, Lu Yi, no way." Yunzai hadn't expected Lu Yi to act like this. Her eyes widened and she exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 328, 155. The only male cultivator of the 10,000 Flowers sect 1,200 monthly tickets extra 2. Chapter 328-155. The only male cultivator of the 10,000 Flowers sect 1,200 monthly tickets extra /2. However, soon Yunzai's voice changed, and dragon and phoenix cries arose again from within the cave mansion, accompanied by scattering mysterious light. 2 days later, Yunzai couldn't take it anymore, and Lu Yi left the room reluctantly, feeling somewhat unsatisfied. The next day, Yunzai walked out with a look of silent resentment. Because dual cultivation had ended, Lu Yi withdrew the formation, but as soon as he did, immortals from the 10,000 Flowers sect came one after another to Yunzai's cave mansion, wishing to host a banquet for Lu Yi to express their gratitude for his contributions to the sect. From their words, Lu Yi learned that Granny Hua had recounted his re-establishment of the sect protection array, and all the immortals of the 10,000 Flowers sect were very grateful to Lu Yi. However, the gazes of these immortals were filled with a watery light, full of affection when looking at Lu Yi, which caused Yunzai to frown deeply. But relations among the 10,000 Flowers sect disciples were always good, and as the future sect leader of the sect, Yunzai naturally had talented immortals accompanying her. These immortals, one by one, were graceful and lovely, and they were the first to invite Lu Yi and Yunzai. Yunzai couldn't very well refuse them. In the following days, Lu Yi and Yunzai attended various banquets. The entire 10,000 Flowers sect consisted of female cultivators, and within the sect, Lu Yi was the only male cultivator. At every banquet, there was a flock of beautiful immortals, like orioles and swallows in spring. If it had been normal, it wouldn't have been too bad, but almost every time there was an immortal sending him covert glances. The bolder ones even dared to directly message Lu Yi, informing him of the locations of their own cave mansions, and hoping he would visit them at night. Lu Yi felt completely numb, and given that his physical body was extremely strong, he had no choice but to impose upon Yunzai. After each banquet, Yunzai would be unable to leave the bed for half a day. 3 days later, outside the 10,000 Flowers sect, angry roars came from outside the sect. "Lu Yi, come out. Lu Yi, you've killed the strong of the primordial Yang sect. Show yourself if you dare. Lu Yi, give back the life of the Qin family patriarch." A group of 10,000 Flowers sect practitioners gathered at the mountain gate, and Granny Hua and others were present as well. Naturally, Lu Yi and Yunzai also came over. Above the 10,000 Flowers sect, there was a group of powerful cultivators hovering in the air. Lu Yi's gaze swept over them, spotting a middle-aged man, an old crone, and an old man exuding an incredibly profound aura that even Lu Yi found a bit terrifying. Great Mahayana cultivators. Lu Yi had heard that the primordial Yang sect, Forget River Valley, and Qin family had great Mahayana powers, but he never expected that all 3 families' great powers would come. However, Lu Yi wasn't surprised, considering he had killed 4 unification great powers from 2 of those families, creating a huge commotion. Since that day, the 10,000 Flowers sect had already sealed off their mountain, the Star River enshrouding the entire sect. No one went out, so naturally, they were unaware of the situation outside. Now, it seemed that those three sects had already received the news. The disciples and the powerful of the 10,000 Flowers sect all wore calm expressions. After all, Lu Yi had said that this formation could withstand great Mahayana cultivators, and they all trusted him implicitly. The disciples of the 10,000 Flowers sect were rather relaxed, even daring to point and make cheerful banter at the great powers above them. Lu Yi laughed out loud. "You homeless dogs, this is all the ability you have, coming to Qingzhou to bully our Qingzhou sect. If you're capable, go fight the Xi clan to the death." Hearing this, the disciples of the 10,000 Flowers sect laughed even louder. Exactly, homeless dogs. Such grand posturing, one would think you're planning to counterattack the Xi clan. Truly shameless. The faces of the powerful from the three families in the sky turned an ashen blue. The three great Mahayana elders' eyes flickered with divine light, and they took action at once. The middle-aged man spat out a black ancient bell with a terrifying aura. The bell's resonance trembled the air, and the bell waves slashed towards the Star River. But as soon as all the bell waves entered the Star River, they disappeared like drops in the ocean, making no impact and instead causing the stars to shine even more brightly. The other two great Mahayana cultivators also used their arts and cultivation treasures, divine lights carrying a world-destroying aura pressed down upon the 10,000 Flowers sect. The sky cracked open, and the ground in the distance shook like an earthquake, with rock waves rolling into the heavens. Yet inside the 10,000 Flowers sect, it remained extraordinarily peaceful, without any disturbance. Within the Star River, the stars flickered with dazzling brilliance, starlight flowed, and all attacks were absorbed, only making the stars shine more radiantly. As the stars grew stronger, streams of starlight shot out, aiming towards the position of the powerful from the three families. The terrifying power shattered space, and the three great Mahayana powers' expressions changed slightly as they joined forces to block the rays of starlight. Even so, the three great Mahayana powers were forced back a few steps. This caused the countenances of the powerful from the three families to change drastically, disbelief evident in their faces. Their own ancestors, while besieging a divinity transformation sect protection array, were actually repelled. Meanwhile, the disciples of the 10,000 Flowers sect cheered, much pleased by the turn of events. Granny Hua's face beamed with a smile as she said, "Year, I did not expect the sect protection array to have this capability." Lu Yi smiled. "It's not difficult, just store the enemy's attacks, spiritual power and guide it, and it can be done with ease." The others just smiled and did not respond. For Lu Yi, it might be simple, but how many sect protection arrays in existence could truly claim to have both offensive and defensive capabilities? The faces of the three great Mahayana in the sky were as dark as water, not daring to continue their assault, just staring down at the 10,000 Flowers sect. "Lu Yi, if you dare, just stay inside the 10,000 Flowers sect forever. Otherwise, the day you leave the array will be the day you die." Chapter 329, 155. The only male cultivator of the 10,000 Flowers sect 1,200 monthly tickets extra 3. Chapter 329-155. The only male cultivator of the 10,000 Flowers sect 1,200 monthly tickets extra /3. The middle-aged man roared loudly. Lu Yi merely smiled nonchalantly, as he had too many ways to leave. "Let's go, they can't get in." Granny Hua and the other powerful practitioners nodded, and all the 10,000 Flowers sect practitioners turned and left, going about their business as if the people in the sky did not exist. The strong practitioners from the three families had never suffered such humiliation before. Three ancestors of the Mahayana realm and more than a dozen unification realm great powers once again launched repeated attacks on the Star River. However, when the formation counterattacked, its power was extremely terrifying. Caught off guard, several strong practitioners were vaporized by the starlight on the spot, and even a unification great power from the Qin family was severely injured. Had the Qin family ancestor not acted swiftly to save him, he would have perished as well. This caused the complexions of the strong practitioners from the three families to change repeatedly, and they dared not attack any further. After venting their anger, the three powerful practitioners left, leaving behind only one unification great power and some cultivators from Golden Core to cave Void Realm to prevent Lu Yi from escaping. Lu Yi had long since stopped paying attention to the sky. Upon returning to Yunzai's cave mansion, almost a month was spent constantly in banquets. Having witnessed the power of the sect protection array, the female immortals of the 10,000 Flowers sect completely set their minds at ease and chatted lively with Lu Yi, each seemingly wishing to drunkenly collapse into Lu Yi's arms. It was only because Yunzai was vigilant that Lu Yi was not completely surrounded by a group of female immortals. Of course, each time the banquet ended, it was Yunzai who bore the brunt of Lu Yi's full assault. Although Lu Yi spent a lot of time at banquets this month, his cultivation base did not lag behind much compared to a month of arduous cultivation, due to the increased speed from dual cultivation. This made Lu Yi could not help but proclaim the power of the dragon-flying phoenix chant. Of course, this came at a cost. A month later, Yunzai's legs went soft whenever she saw Lu Yi. One day, Yunzai left the room and said seriously, "Lu Yi, it's time for you to leave. You still need to set up arrays for Cold Winter Valley and Wenjian Manor." Lu Yi was startled and said incredulously, "Yunzai, why are you urging me to leave?" Just a while ago she had wanted him to stay indefinitely. How quickly things had changed. Women are indeed fickle. Yunzai looked at Lu Yi with a plaintive gaze. "If you don't leave, I really might die." Lu Yi wanted to stay a few more days, but Yunzai's tone was very determined, and she seemed ready to go practice with Granny Hua if Lu Yi didn't leave. Lu Yi, regardless of what he felt, dared not engage in dual cultivation with Yunzai at Granny Hua's place. He was not that thick-skinned. Left with no choice, Lu Yi agreed. Before leaving, Lu Yi gave Yunzai some heavenly materials and earthly treasures in spirit marrow, along with 10,000 miles talismans and other life-saving items. He also gave her the 9-colored bellflowers. As for the divinity transformation technique, flying flower escape sky technique, Lu Yi had already taught it to her over the month. Yunzai did not refuse and directly accepted them. As she was already Lu Yi's woman, she naturally had no reason to refuse. Lastly, despite Yunzai's pleas, Lu Yi engaged in dual cultivation one final time, leaving while Yunzai was unconscious. As for how to leave, it was not difficult for Lu Yi. After all, Lu Yi himself had created the formation. Even if the formation was active, leaving was a breeze for him. At the moment, numerous cultivators were patrolling outside the formation. These cultivators were the strong practitioners of the primordial Yang sect, responsible for watching Lu Yi. Lu Yi's gaze was cold and stern, as he found the patrol route of the primordial Yang sect practitioners. Lu Yi didn't have a particular dislike for the Qin family and Forget River Valley. They were just pursuing their own interests and trying to deal with him. However, he had a strong aversion to the primordial Yang sect, especially since Luo Tianyang from that sect had taken an interest in Yunzai. Even though Luo Tianyang was dead, this did not diminish Lu Yi's aversion to the primordial Yang sect. Moreover, the primordial Yang sect might still have connections to the disappearances of many disciples of the 10,000 Flowers sect. During these days of interaction, Lu Yi had developed a quite favorable impression of the immortals from the 10,000 Flowers sect. Each one spoke pleasantly, looked attractive, and had a nice personality. Who wouldn't like beautiful immortals? If only these immortals had flirted with him less, it would have been even better. Yunzai was so exhausted, mainly because of their significant contribution. The reasons relating to himself were only a small part. Lu Yi shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He stepped forward, moving like a ghost among the Star River, quickly crossing it and arriving outside the 10,000 Flowers sect. When a patrol of primordial Yang sect practitioners saw Lu Yi coming out, they were stunned for a moment, not quite catching on. Then they didn't get the chance to react any further. Streaks of golden sword light swept across, instantly turning them into a mist of blood. As Lu Yi's aura circulated, other cultivators sensed it immediately. Lu Yi, an enraged roar resounded. Lu Yi saw 3 unification great powers rapidly approaching him, his expression cold and filled with killing intent. "Ha ha ha," Lu Yi laughed loudly, stepping forward, as if crossing through the void, arriving near a group of primordial Yang sect practitioners. Golden sword light streaked across space, instantly slaying them. At that moment, the cultivation treasures and arts of the 3 unification great powers had already struck. Yet Lu Yi showed not a trace of panic. He stepped forward and vanished once again from the spot. As the sword domain circulated, another group of primordial Yang sect practitioners died. Lu Yi had cultivated the extreme level, Step to the Ends of the World, an art of the cave void realm. The extreme level art far surpassed his own realm. Step to the Ends of the World could compare to an art of the unification realm. Operating it, Lu Yi moved like a divine skill. With one step, he seemed to traverse space, achieving a certain extreme speed. How is that possible? How can he be so fast? The three unification great powers were somewhat shocked. Lu Yi had always demonstrated his proficiency in Array Tao Realm and Sword Tao Realm, and everyone was taken aback by his incredible speed. One unification great power shouted and struck out with a piece of red cloth, which ballooned with the wind, covering the sky and sun, attempting to suppress Lu Yi. Lu Yi's expression subtly changed, sensing a significant threat. The red cloth was a spiritual artifact, quite extraordinary. Lu Yi didn't dare linger. Operating the extreme level stepped to the ends of the world. His figure flickered, and he instantly dashed out, escaping the domain of the red cloth and along the way, slaying all the primordial Yang sect practitioners he encountered. This made the unification great powers of the primordial Yang sect roar in fury, extremely angered. Chase him, we can't let him get away. The three unification great powers rushed out, chasing after Lu Yi. Lu Yi had escaped the range of the red cloth and flew at great speed toward the distance. However, the speed of the unification great powers was naturally not slow, and they kept up with Lu Yi. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow, just about to use the 1,000 transformation skill, when his expression drastically changed. Suddenly, golden lights flickered in the sky, illuminating the night as if it were day, nearly brightening thousands of miles around. Great Mahayana. Lu Yi was somewhat alarmed, not expecting that a great Mahayana had been hidden in the shadows. Updating first, we'll revise later. Chapter 330, 156, The Essence of Ancient Array Patterns. Chapter 330-156, The Essence of Ancient Array Patterns. Lu Yi looked up and saw the middle-aged man from before, hovering in the air, radiating a blazing golden light. This middle-aged man was the great Mahayana ancestor of the primordial Yang sect. Lu Yi, today is the day you die, the great Mahayana ancestor said coldly, his body surrounded by golden light, divine wheels encircling him as if a god were handing down judgment. Lu Yi's expression was stern as he mocked, a cultivator of the great Mahayana realm, hiding in the shadows to ambush me, a mere divinity transformation cultivator. That's really something. Lu Yi hadn't expected that the three families had such patience, not content with just three unification great powers on guard here, but even having the great Mahayana ancestor himself lying in ambush. To think that a great Mahayana ancestor, among the most powerful in the three families, would actually spend his time lying in wait here. The expression of the primordial Yang sect's great Mahayana ancestor remained calm. At his age, he was no longer disturbed by external things and certainly did not mind Lu Yi's slight mocking. No matter how much you talk, you won't escape today. I have studied you and you possess a void-shifting talisman. Last time you probably escaped from a great power using it. This time I have suppressed the space around us, you can't teleport away. Let's see how you'll run now. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi's face slightly changed. These great Mahayana beings were old monsters, experienced and thorough in their actions, clearly prepared for everything. As Lu Yi was internally alarmed, the primordial Yang sect ancestor reached out. Golden light filled the sky, forming a gigantic golden hand that spanned tens of kilometers. This golden hand confined the space, enveloping Lu Yi within it, leaving him no chance to escape. The power of the great Mahayana cultivator was terrifying. Even while the hand was still in the air, Lu Yi could feel his bones creaking and intense pain shooting through his body. To think Lu Yi's physical body was already incredibly formidable, yet he still fell short against a great Mahayana cultivator. Lu Yi's expression calmed down, and he took out a talisman and activated it. Suddenly, Lu Yi felt the space around him crack, as if something was breaking. The primordial Yang sect ancestor's expression slightly changed. A space-breaking talisman. How do you have such a talisman? A space-breaking talisman was even more precious than a space transfer talisman, capable of breaking space itself, and only a few long-standing Immortal sect holy lands possessed a few of these talismans. The primordial Yang sect ancestor had not anticipated that Lu Yi would also have one. Lu Yi smiled, took out a 10,000 miles talisman and activated it. His figure vanished from the spot, leaving only his voice behind. Primordial Yang sect, I remember you. I will come looking for you later. Watching Lu Yi disappear before his eyes, the primordial Yang sect ancestor's face turned dark. His terrifying divine sense swept across the area, but he could no longer sense Lu Yi's presence. Suddenly, the primordial Yang sect ancestor roared repeatedly, Lu Yi. The golden light boiled, and the mountain wilderness below melted like butter, turning into a sea of red magma. The primordial Yang sect ancestor was extremely furious. Far away, the moment Lu Yi reappeared, he concealed his aura and used the 1,000 transformation skill to turn into a sparrow. He glanced at the golden sky in the distance and leisurely flew toward cold Winter Valley. Over the next few days, Lu Yi moved at a leisurely pace, occasionally changing his appearance, entering ancient cities along the way to gather information. Over a month ago, the news of Lu Yi using the sect protection array of the 10,000 Flowers sect to kill 4 unification great powers had already spread. After 10 years of silence, Lu Yi had once again entered the public eye. In a tavern, Lu Yi, disguised as an ordinary-looking young cultivator, was drinking. The cultivators nearby were discussing fervently. Lu Yi is truly a monstrous talent that even the immortals are astonished by. Every time he appears, he is stronger than before. Last time he destroyed the Blood Spirit sect, and this time he directly killed 4 unification great powers. It's unbelievable. Yes, it's said that the sect protection array of the 10,000 Flowers sect was personally constructed by Lu Yi. It's unknown what kind of spell the 10,000 Flowers sect cast on him to make such a monstrous figure leave the White Cloud sect and build them an array. What else could it be? The immortals of the 10,000 Flowers sect are stunningly beautiful, naturally that kind, someone lewdly laughed. SSS, truly enviable, a cultivator sighed in admiration. The others also laughed. Hearing this, Lu Yi felt indignant. He had touched no other immortal of the 10,000 Flowers sect besides Yunzai. Did you not know? There's new news about Lu Yi, someone added. What news? Everyone asked curiously. It said that Lu Yi left the 10,000 Flowers sect 2 days ago, and right after leaving, he went on a killing spree, nearly killing all the cave void cultivators of the primordial Yang sect present, almost infuriating the great powers of the primordial Yang sect to death. Really? The crowd was shocked. Lu Yi even dared to show up, that's bold. He has many tactics and is very confident. Surely he has some reliable support, someone asserted. You hit the nail on the head. Who would have thought that the primordial Yang sect ancestor was also hiding in the shadows, not leaving, just waiting for Lu Yi to come out? As soon as this person finished speaking, the crowd exclaimed in surprise. A great Mahayana being lurking in the shadows to ambush a divinity transformation cultivator. Are they not ashamed? Can't say that. Who dares to regard Lu Yi as a mere divinity transformation cultivator now? He just killed 4 unification great powers from the 3 families. What happened next? What happened next? The speaking cultivator chuckled. What else could happen? Lu Yi, with many tactics at his disposal, heard that the primordial Yang sect ancestor locked down the space, and still, he managed to escape. Now no one knows where he is. Chapter 331, 156, Essence of Ancient Array Patterns 2. Chapter 330, 1-156, Essence of Ancient Array Patterns /2. Hearing this, everyone repeatedly sighed and lamented. Lu Yi has truly already made it big. Indeed, if even a great Mahayana cannot kill him, then unless a tribulation-crossing ancestor takes action, there is nothing that can threaten him anymore. Now, Lu Yi's cultivation base is still at the divinity transformation realm. Give it another 1,000 years, once he reaches the unification or even the Mahayana realm, he will likely dominate Tiananmen with no rivals. That may not necessarily be the case. The Kinkyu demon fox from the Northern Territory is not to be underestimated. It has received the demon emperor's inheritance. It might not be inferior to Lu Yi. That is also true. Everyone debated loudly, and Lu Yi quietly listened, also picking up some useful information. After Lu Yi had left, the 3 families' powerhouses were immensely furious, each sending out formidable cultivators in an attempt to find Lu Yi, but to no avail so far. Soon, Lu Yi heard another piece of news. Have you heard? The coalition forces fighting the Sea clan seem to be planning a major move. What major move? I heard from a friend on the battlefield that the Sea clan has sent reinforcements again. The coalition is starting to fall back, and some of the Immortal sect holy lands in the eastern domain are getting restless. They plan to recruit soldiers and horses to resist the Sea clan. What? Reinforcements from the Sea clan again? Their forces that were originally sent out were already enough to handle one Immortal sect holy land, and it's not over yet. Have the Sea clan grown so powerful? With things like this, I fear that the battlefield will continue to move inland. Who knows what craziness has gotten into the Sea clan that they suddenly started attacking the territories of the human clan. The expressions of many cultivators showed great concern. After all, this matter was closely related to them. If the tide of battle reached Qingzhou, one could imagine how many cultivators would die in this region. Even if Qingzhou were not reached, if the frontline sects were to retreat, even more cultivators would come to Qingzhou, making Qingzhou much more chaotic at that time. Troublesome times indeed, sighed an old man whose cultivation base was at the Golden Core realm. Fellow Taoist, did you say that the Immortal sect Holy Lands plan to recruit soldiers and horses to fight the Sea clan? Are they planning some big move? Someone asked. The speaker was a middle-aged man, his cultivation base also at the Golden Core realm, and his power was not weak. He began, they indeed have plans. The Immortal sect Holy Lands have already sent envoys to those sects that had retreated from the occupied great states, demanding that they dispatch powerful forces to join the battle. At this, many cultivators cheered. Ha ha ha, that's how it should be. These major powers, fearful of clashing with the Sea clan and having lost their territories, come to rob the cultivation resources of our cultivators in Qingzhou. Shameless. They should be the ones to battle the Sea clan and reclaim their own territories. With that, Qingzhou might improve somewhat. Life won't be so hard. What if those sects dare not dispatch their powerful forces? Someone asked. HMPH, that's no longer up to them. With the frontline in chaos, these cultivators should already be joining the battle, yet they create internal strife inland. If they don't send their forces, the Immortal sect Holy Lands probably won't spare them. There are already tribulation-crossing ancestors who have declared that participation is a must, said the middle-aged man. Hearing this, many cultivators showed even brighter smiles. I haven't finished yet, the middle-aged man said. Everyone continued to listen intently. While those sects are being asked to join the battle, the sects in the inland may also need to dispatch powerful figures. The strength of the Sea clan greatly exceeds the anticipations of the Eastern Domain authorities. Only by sending more powerful figurers to join the battle can they completely block them, the middle-aged man explained. This statement made many cultivators pause, then exchange glances. If that's so, if the ancestors of Qingzhou's powerful sects die on the battlefield, then those sects may very well be in grave danger, someone remarked. For loose cultivators, this is a good thing, said a loose cultivator, eyes gleaming brightly. If the sects encountered major problems, it would provide the best opportunity for loose cultivators to rise. In chaotic times, mighty figures always emerge. Lu Yi, hearing this news, also furrowed his brows slightly. If it were indeed so, it would indeed be a major matter. After all, the strong cultivators within a sect are its foundation. If all the strong ones die on the battlefield, relying merely on the weaklings, it would be challenging to suppress the entire region, and their rule would exist in name only. If they lack the power to govern the entire region, the sect's cultivation resources would be greatly reduced, creating a vicious cycle. Lu Yi inwardly sighed, thinking that the turmoil brought about by the war with the Sea clan was too great, likely leading to a reshuffling of many powers and rise of new mighty figures. For Lu Yi, although he felt some regret, his heart was not greatly disturbed, for to a cultivator like him, personal power was the most crucial aspect. Afterward, Lu Yi heard some more about the news coming from the battlefield of the Sea clan. The fierceness of the Sea clan war far exceeded Lu Yi's imagination, with tribulation-crossing ancestors fighting almost daily, demolishing one area after another, even turning many regions of the Eastern Domain into desolate lands, creating vast deserts. Everyone realized that this could not continue, and the battles fought by the great powers gradually moved beyond the heavens, allowing other regions to be preserved. However, with even the tribulation-crossing ancestors fighting daily, one can imagine how fierce the battles were for other cultivators. So far, no news had emerged of any tribulation-crossing ancestors dying, but more than one in the Mahayana realm had perished, not to mention those in the Unification realm. The entire battlefield was virtually a slaughterhouse. Below the cave void, even their own lives were hard to control. Chapter 332, 156, Essence of Ancient Array Patterns 3. Chapter 332, -156, Essence of Ancient Array Patterns /3. As for the mortals, deaths occurred city by city, and it was said that quite a few territories had their land stained blood red. Lu Yi felt the pressure increase as he listened. With his current strength, if the Qi clan swept near Qingzhou, he might not even have the power to protect himself, let alone safeguard the people he cherished. He had to focus on his cultivation. Then Lu Yi thought of his master, whose strength seemed exceptionally formidable, and perhaps there wouldn't be a big problem. But then again, Lu Yi considered that, while his master was strong, the Qi clan might have equally powerful figures. If that were the case, the situation would probably still be very grim. Reliance on others could never compare to self-reliance. Feeling tremendous pressure, Lu Yi knew he had to seriously cultivate after his return. Later, Lu Yi heard news that the Immortal sect Holy Land of the Eastern Domain was planning to talk with the Qi clan ancestors to find a way to stop the fighting. Continuing the battle would bring no benefits to the Eastern Domain, and of course, it would be a huge loss for the Qi clan as well. All cultivators were looking forward to this negotiation, wondering whether there would be a turning point. A group of cultivators discussed it hotly, each expressing their perspectives, and then they began talking about other matters. Lu Yi listened for a bit and realized they were just gossiping, nothing that concerned him. Lu Yi paid his bill and left. Lu Yi traveled for several days and eventually arrived at the sect's location in Cold Jade Valley. The location of Cold Jade Valley was in a snowy mountain range, rumored to be where an immortal who had mastered the Ice Tao gained enlightenment. Although Qingzhou was not cold, the snow here never melted, even after 10,000 years. The entire area was extremely cold, perfect for cultivating the heart of ice. Without alarming anyone, Lu Yi sneaked into Cold Winter Valley and found Han Yu. Han Yu's cave mansion was situated on a snowy mountain, almost entirely constructed from ice blocks. Upon seeing Lu Yi, Han Yu showed a surprised and delighted smile. "Brother Lu, what brings you here?" Since the chaos in Qingzhou, the two had not seen each other for quite some time. Han Yu, with his white hair and delicate beauty almost like a woman, warmly hugged Lu Yi. Lu Yi felt a bit uncomfortable. Han Yu might look like a girl, but he was definitely a man, and Lu Yi was not keen on hugging and cuddling with another man. "How improper." Lu Yi smiled and said, "I've come to Cold Winter Valley to construct a sect protection array for you." Han Yu laughed upon hearing this. "I've heard about it. A while back, Brother Lu went to the 10,000 Flowers sect and constructed a sect protection array for them, even using it to kill 4 unification great powers." Lu Yi smiled. "I didn't expect that even Cold Winter Valley had heard of it." Cold Winter Valley was not near the 10,000 Flowers sect. Han Yu shook his head and said with a sigh, "That event startled the whole world. How could we not have heard of it? Brother Lu's strength is becoming more and more astonishing. It is truly admirable." Lu Yi smiled. "Afterward we can have a sparring session." "That would be great," Han Yu said, smiling and nodding. "Brother Han Yu, take me to meet your sect leader first," Lu Yi said with a smile. Han Yu nodded and took Lu Yi to meet sect leader Lu. Sect leader Lu and the supreme elders of the Cold Jade Valley had naturally heard about Lu Yi's arrangement of the sect protection array for the 10,000 Flowers sect, and they had been eagerly waiting for his arrival. Upon seeing Lu Yi, they were all overjoyed. "Taoist Lu, you've arrived. We have prepared the array materials and now we are relying on you," sect leader Lu said with a beaming smile. Lu Yi naturally nodded with a smile as well. He followed sect leader Lu to the treasury of the Cold Jade Valley, and was somewhat surprised to find that the heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the Cold Jade Valley were even more abundant than those of the 10,000 Flowers Valley. There were as many as 4 pieces of 10,000-year-old ice iron, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures of the unification realm. These pieces of 10,000-year-old ice iron were mined from a vein in Cold Winter Valley. "We never dared to use them," sect leader Lu explained. Lu Yi was somewhat surprised. Cold Winter Valley was indeed a wonderful place, possessing eternally unmelting ice in such a vein. This matter was probably known to only a few besides sect leader Lu. Otherwise, Cold Winter Valley couldn't possibly protect such a treasure trove. After taking the 10,000-year-old ice iron, Lu Yi began preparing to arrange the great array for Cold Winter Valley. With the precedent set by the 10,000 Flowers sect, before setting up the sect protection array, Lu Yi first arranged some smaller formations to conceal the energy flow and avoid detection, so that the commotion from the sect protection array would not attract the prying eyes of powerful forces. During the arrangement of the great array, Lu Yi used all 4 pieces of 10,000-year-old ice iron, and also took out 3 other heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the unification realm for added measure, so that he could set up an array capable of withstanding the forces of the Mahayana realm. Watching the ice fog swirling around the array eye, sect leader Lu and Han Yu stood side by side, and sect leader Lu exclaimed, "Yuer, if only you were a woman." Han Yu was taken aback and asked with a puzzled look, "Master, why would you say that?" Sect leader Lu said, "Look at the 10,000 Flowers sect. Yunzai and Lu Yi are a Taoist couple. Lu Yi had taken out a total of 8 heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and they themselves only had 1 piece of the unification realm. Yet our cold winter valley had 4 pieces of the unification realm, and the final array is perhaps not as strong as that of the 10,000 Flowers sect. If you were a woman, our array could have been stronger than theirs." Although the 10,000 Flowers sect was closed off, the cultivation treasures that could be used for communication still existed. Sect leader Lu had specifically inquired Granny Hua for any special considerations for Lu Yi's array arrangement to avoid any mistakes, and naturally understood the situation. Han Yu. He was full of confusion, unsure of what to say for a moment. The array was set up very smoothly, and after a few hours the terrible pressure dissipated. Lu Yi exhaled a breath of stale air and turned to sect leader Lu and Han Yu. "Sect leader Lu, I have accomplished the task entrusted to me." Sect leader Lu's expression became solemn as he deeply bowed to Lu Yi and said, "Thank you, Taoist Lu. Qingzhou is in turmoil, and without your great array, our cold winter valley's inheritance might not have been preserved, and the secret would eventually have been discovered." Han Yu also turned to Lu Yi and earnestly said, "Thank you, Brother Lu. If Brother Lu should request it, I, Han Yu, am willing to go through fire and water, refusing nothing." Lu Yi smiled. "Sect leader Lu, Brother Han Yu, you're too kind." At that moment, Lu Yi thought for a bit and then said, "Cold Winter Valley is a treasure land. If the secret gets out, I'm afraid this great array might not hold. I have another formation here that could be deployed in the event that the land cannot be defended. It will ensure the preservation of the lives of the cultivators of Cold Winter Valley." Previously, when Lu Yi was at the exit of the East Forest ruins, he saw many mysterious ancient array patterns. At that time, he could not comprehend them and recorded them. Now, his array Tao realm has advanced, and he has understood a small portion of the essence of these array patterns. Post then revised tilde. Chapter 333, 157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered. Chapter 333-157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered. Previously, Lu Yi saw extremely mysterious array patterns at the exit of the East Forest ruins, and it was only after absorbing the array Tao inheritance and top-tier array analyses provided by the Heavenly Palace that he came to understand some of them. All those array patterns were involved in space teleportation, capable of connecting to the void and traveling through it, a type of ancient transmission array pattern. According to terms from his previous life, they were called transmission arrays. Lu Yi, with his understanding of array patterns, could confirm that the exit he encountered at the East Forest ruins was indeed a teleportation array. However, perhaps due to the passage of time, the teleportation array had malfunctioned, and eventually it was possible to open it from the outside world to lead cultivators out of the East Forest ruins. Lu Yi was unable to ascertain the original purpose of the teleportation array in the ancient times, but he could confirm that the array patterns were very old. Probably only some immortal sect holy lands still possessed such array pattern inheritances. Now, Lu Yi had grasped the essence of some transmission array patterns, and although he could not create a teleportation array with an extremely long distance, he could construct small-scale transmission arrays within the region of Qingzhou. During his time with the 10,000 Flowers sect, he had already created a teleportation array that could connect to a mountain peak location in the White Cloud mountain range. Because the transmission array was too important, only Yunzai and Granny Hua knew of it, and even the Supreme Elders were not aware of this matter. Now, Lu Yi wanted to construct a transmission array in Cold Winter Valley as well. This way, even if the worst outcome occurred, and the sect protection array failed to stop the invasion of powerful intruders, the cultivators within the sect could escape using the teleportation array. After all, one can always start a fire if there are still green hills left. Lu Yi shared his thoughts, and both sect leader Lu and Han Yu were extremely shocked. Taoist Lu's mastery in the array Tao realm is truly astonishing, even capable of grasping ancient transmission array patterns from ancient times. If we can construct such a great array, that would naturally be the best. We will trouble Taoist Lu. As the sect leader Lu understood the importance of an escape array pattern and immediately agreed without second thoughts. Although transmission array patterns are complicated, the materials needed are not too high grade if the transmission distance is not far. Lu Yi had used only some heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the cave void realm to create a teleportation array. This teleportation array was also known only to sect leader Lu and Han Yu, and if there were no dangers, no one would use it. After constructing this teleportation array, Lu Yi stayed at Han Yu's for 2 days to discuss and spar, before leaving Cold Winter Valley. After all, Han Yu was not Yunzai, thus not holding much attraction for Lu Yi. Afterward, Lu Yi made another trip to Wenjian Manor. Jian Ruyu was not back yet, and there had been no news of her for years. Lu Yi learned from Jian Ruyu's father, Jian Jingshan, that not long after Lu Yi left the Divine Sword Sect, an anomaly spread, startling the entire Divine Sword Sect and even the Old Master. As a result, Jian Ruyu had been in seclusion ever since. It was said that the Old Master was personally teaching Jian Ruyu. Lu Yi felt a sense of realization upon hearing Jian Jingshan's words. Before leaving, Lu Yi had given Jian Ruyu the Sword Heart Fruit. Her sword talent was already remarkable, and after absorbing the Sword Heart Fruit, her sword talent likely underwent another transformation, becoming even more impressive. As Jian Ruyu was already the top talent of the Divine Sword Sect, another transformation would not be surprising if it stirred the whole sect. Lu Yi felt somewhat happy for Jian Ruyu. With her talent greatly improved, her strength was likely to have greatly increased as well. Having learned about Jian Ruyu's situation, Lu Yi did not delay further and, like in Cold Winter Valley, started by carving arrays to conceal aura and noise, and then began constructing a sect protection array. Wenjian Manor itself was a subordinate power of the Divine Sword Sect and naturally had many treasures. With 6 heavenly materials and earthly treasures available, Lu Yi decided to contribute 3 more to make 9, creating a sect protection array no less powerful than that of the 10,000 Flowers sect. The final outcome left Wenjian Manor extremely satisfied. Although Manor Master Jian Jingshan was usually a very solemn and authoritative figure, his smile never left his face at this moment. Lu Yi, thank you for this. You and Yuer are good friends. When Yuer comes back, I'll have her thank you at the White Cloud sect, Jian Jingshan said with a smile. Lu Yi smiled. Uncle, you're too polite. Jian Jingshan also invited Lu Yi to their treasury to see if there were any heavenly materials and earthly treasures that suited him. But in the end, Lu Yi did not pick anything satisfactory. After all, what he had on hand was very precious, far surpassing the items in the Divinity Transformation sect's treasury. Even the treasury of Wenjian Manor had nothing that caught Lu Yi's eye. After staying at Wenjian Manor for 2 days, Lu Yi left the manor. Along the way, Lu Yi occasionally used the 1000 transformation skill to change his appearance, preventing others from finding him, leisurely enjoying the scenery as he headed toward the White Cloud sect. One day, while Lu Yi was in an ancient city, he heard some news. Have you heard? Yellow Mountain sect, Yuluo sect, and Bright Moon Valley have all lifted their state of mountain seclusion. What, didn't they say they would be secluded for 1,000 years? Why lift it all of a sudden? I heard that the 3 sects have pledged allegiance to outside sect forces, Yellow Mountain sect to Thunder King Hall, Yuluo sect to the Beidou sect, and Bright Moon Valley to the Luoxing sect. They're planning to reclaim their former territories. Chapter 334, 157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered 2. Chapter 334, Chapter 157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered /2. What, they actually sided with an external sect? Doesn't this mean they're abandoning their own doctrines? What can be done? They were defeated in the great battle of Qingzhou before, and 1,000 years of seclusion might not be much better than the current situation. It's going to be chaos again, the 3 sects aligning with the 3 external forces. If they plan to reclaim territories, wouldn't they have to fight against sects like Cold Winter Valley? Don't joke, our Qingzhou's strongest is only the Cave Void Ancestor, and each of the sects they're allying with has a great power. How could they possibly win? I'm afraid that using the Yellow Mountain sect and the 3 sects as an excuse, the forces from Thunder King Hall would target the local Qingzhou sects. If that happens, it could lead to a bloodbath. Lu Yi listened to this conversation with a heavy heart. External forces come to Qingzhou with dubious legitimacy, boasting substantial strength to dominate. But on the surface, they still maintain a semblance of decorum and don't overly trouble the local Qingju sects. But now, with the allegiance of Yellow Mountain sect, Yuluo sect, and Bright Moon Valley, they have a reason to trouble the natives. Using the territories divided in the former Great Battle of Qingju as an excuse, these three external sect forces now have a pretext for aggression, likely bringing unprecedented difficulty to the local sects of Qingju. Then Lu Yi let out a sigh of relief, grateful that he had finished inscribing the sect protection arrays for both Cold Winter Valley and Wenjian Manor. Of course, Wenjian Manor had the Divine Sword sect as backing, which probably wouldn't be a big issue, but without the sect protection array, Cold Winter Valley would likely face grave problems. As for the Iron Heart sect, Red Cloud sect, and Black Jade Peak, they didn't give him any notice or invite him to inscribe an array, so there was nothing he could do about it. 3 days passed, and the unrest in Qingju still surfaced. Just as Lu Yi had anticipated, using the Yellow Mountain sect and the three sects as an excuse, the three sects under Thunder King Hall reclaimed many territories, including some resources. Although these resources were not much for a sect with a great power, it significantly eased the cultivation needs of their disciples. If they had gone to other great states, they would have had to compete with other sects no weaker than them, with even greater losses. During this period, a dispute over a mine arose between Red Cloud sect and Thunder King Hall, eventually leading to an attack on Red Cloud sect's gate, scattering their practices and doctrines. Some cultivators privy to the situation even revealed that Red Cloud sect had been extremely tolerant, but Thunder King Hall still arbitrarily fabricated an excuse to assault them. Suddenly, the undercurrents hidden within Qingju turned into overwhelming waves, engulfing the entire state. Compared to these imposing external forces, the Qingju local sects were at a not insignificant disadvantage. Lu Yi sighed to himself about how weak sects suffer tragically in such turmoil. A few more days passed, and Cold Winter Valley announced seclusion, just like 10,000 Flowers sect. This decision left the cultivators of Qingju stunned. What was the difference between seclusion and no seclusion for a sect in the divinity transformation realm when faced with forces led by a great power? The most brutal fighting in the original Battle of Qingju involved White Cloud sect, 10,000 Flowers sect, Wenjian Manor, and Cold Winter Valley. The four sects had significant enmity with the Yuluo sect and the three sects, but now only Cold Winter Valley was the weak link without significant backing. White Cloud sect had a tribulation crossing great power, 10,000 Flowers sect had a formidable sect protection array, and Wenjian Manor had the support of Divine Sword sect. The three sects naturally wouldn't let go of Cold Winter Valley. So not many days later, a unification great power from the Beidou sect personally came to the Cold Winter Mountain Range, intending to destroy Cold Winter Valley. However, what shocked all of Qingju was that the Cold Winter Valley sect protection array stopped the unification great power. This revelation stunned everyone. Then they quickly thought of 10,000 Flowers sect, which was in a similar situation. Naturally, everyone thought of Lu Yi. Lu Yi had not only arranged a sect protection array for 10,000 Flowers sect, but also for Cold Winter Valley. Many cultivators then understood why Cold Winter Valley had so decisively chosen to go into seclusion. Thunder King Hall, Beidou sect, and Liuxing sect, already aware of what happened with 10,000 Flowers sect, didn't overly trouble Cold Winter Valley, just occupying its territories instead. As for the territories of Wenjian Manor, nobody dared to touch them, fearing to provoke a great power from Divine Sword sect. Now all Qingju cultivators were speculating when Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak would become the next lamb to the slaughter. Indeed, for the powerful external sects, the weaker Qingju sects were like lambs ready for the picking, merely fodder for others. Lu Yi sighed in his heart but wasn't particularly moved, as he was not close to Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak after all. Days later, Lu Yi returned to the territory of White Cloud sect and quickly made his way to White Cloud Mountain Range. Outside the gate, Lu Yi was surprised to find many cultivators outside the gates of White Cloud sect, with several powerful individuals being received by Master Wu Qingfeng and several Divinity Transformation Realm Supreme Elders. Lu Yi recognized a few of them as the leaders and Supreme Elders of Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak, who had visited White Cloud sect during the prior turmoil in Qingju. Lu Yi was astonished. Considering the current precarious situation of Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak, what were they doing at White Cloud sect? Lu Yi had reverted to his original appearance, and was immediately spotted by Wu Qingfeng and others upon arrival. Their eyes lit up as they approached. Master Wu Qingfeng smiled and said, "Nephew Lu, you've returned." Chapter 335, 157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered 3. Chapter 335. Chapter 157, The Lamb to be Slaughtered /3. Lu Yi smiled and nodded. "Oh. Good, it's great to have you back," Elder Qian sighed. "We all kind of regret letting you go set up formations for them. It's becoming more and more chaotic outside." Lu Yi smiled again. "Elder Qian, rest assured I still have some means. These ripples are not a big deal to me." The sect leader of the Iron Heart sect, a tall and robust middle-aged man, looked at Lu Yi with a sigh. "Brother Wu, I'm really envious of you. If our Iron Heart sect had a genius like Lu Yi back in the day, we wouldn't have fallen to such a state." Wu Qingfeng's eyebrows danced with delight, and he was all smiles. "Ha ha ha, my White Cloud sect has the protection of the Ancestor Master." The sect leader of Black Jade Peak, an elderly man in black robes with a lean face and white hair, nodded to Lu Yi and said with a cupped fist salute, "Taoist Lu, it's been a long time since we last met." Lu Yi also greeted them with a smile. Then he asked with some puzzlement, "Why are the members of both sects at the gate of my White Cloud sect?" His question made the strong cultivators from both sects somewhat embarrassed. Wu Qingfeng then explained, "Nephew Lu, it's like this. They are planning to join our White Cloud sect." Hearing this, Lu Yi was taken aback for a moment and gave the strong cultivators from the two sects, who were mostly divinity transformation cultivators including the sect leaders of both sects, a slightly weird glance. Seeing the awkward expressions on the faces of the strong cultivators from the two sects, he felt even more bewildered. They are planning to join the White Cloud sect. What about their own sects? The sect leader of the Iron Heart sect smiled bitterly. "Looking at the current situation, what future is there for our Iron Heart sect?" "That's right," agreed the sect leader of Black Jade Peak with a similarly bitter tone. "Those external sects have covetous ambitions and endless greed. Moreover, the Yuyuo sect and the three sects will not let us go. They might find excuses to attack our sects. How can we resist with our strength?" The strong cultivators from both sects wore bitter expressions and a sense of unwillingness, creating a solemn atmosphere for a moment. Lu Yi fell silent as well. He knew that what the sect leaders of the Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak said was true. However, looking at their expressions, Lu Yi felt rather complicated. Both sects had a history of more than 10,000 years. They were lineages built by generations of ancestors, a heritage. It was unexpected that this heritage would end in their generation. As the top cultivators of their sects, their feelings must be the most reluctant and complex. As the sect leader, Wu Qingfeng, of course, understood the psychology of the strong cultivators from both sects. He patted the sect leader of the Iron Heart sect on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Brother Tai, by joining our White Cloud sect, the legacy of the Iron Heart sect can be considered to be passed down in another form, not completely severed." The sect leader of Iron Heart sect forced a smile, which seemed quite strained. Afterwards, Lu Yi listened, as they discussed the details of Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak merging into White Cloud sect. The strongest cultivators in Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak were divinity transformation cultivators. Neither of them had a cave void ancestor. Nonetheless, as one of the top sects in Qingzhou, they had about a dozen divinity transformation cultivators, as well as numerous nascent soul and golden core cultivators, with even more at the foundation establishment and Qi cultivation levels. However, if both sects were to merge into White Cloud sect, it was not practical to bring over so many people at once, as the commotion would be too great. Moreover, with Qingzhou being so chaotic now, White Cloud sect was unable to accept the territories of the two sects, and the resources they had were limited. Thus, they did not dare to take in all the disciples. What White Cloud sect could do was to take in the golden core, nascent soul, and divinity transformation cultivators of both sects. They simply could not afford to take in the foundation establishment and Qi cultivators. Even so, there were thousands of people. With Qingzhou in such turmoil, they could only come over in batches secretly. It was uncertain how many cultivators would eventually arrive at White Cloud sect. They then discussed the specific details, and the group flew towards the Grand Hall of White Cloud sect for discussions. Lu Yi was not interested and didn't bother to follow them. First, Lu Yi went back home for a visit, seeing old Lu and his mother. Over the years, thanks to Lu Yi's constant supply of resources, their cultivation hadn't slowed down. Plus, with the enhancement of their aptitudes by spirit marrow, both had broken through to the nascent soul realm. However, they still remained in the outer sect and did not wish to go to the inner sect, as they had been in the outer sect for many years and had grown attached, not wanting to leave. The sect leader had tried to persuade them several times without success, so Lu Yi let them be. As a result, old Lu became the outer elder, while his mother took charge of the affairs hall. Elder Qi Feiyu and Elder Dugu Fang even became their subordinates. Since Elder Qi Feiyu and Elder Dugu Fang had treated old Lu, his mother, and Lu Yi well, Lu Yi naturally gave them some of the perfect elixirs and heavenly materials and earthly treasures he didn't need. Such elixirs and treasures might be trivial to Lu Yi, but for the two golden core elderly, they were priceless. Dugu Fang even broke through to the nascent soul realm thanks to them, and Qi Feiyu wasn't far from the nascent soul realm either. Both were naturally extremely grateful to Lu Yi. No sooner had Lu Yi returned home than the two elders came over to freeload a meal. It wasn't just them. Old Lu's former colleagues also visited the house, very respectfully. After all, Lu Yi had now reached the divinity transformation realm, with combat power far exceeding that of a regular divinity transformation cultivator. Only a few individuals knew the true extent of his master's strength, and nearly all cultivators of the White Cloud sect believed that Lu Yi was now the strongest presence in the sect. Even Elder Ming and Elder Liu, who had broken through to the cave void realm, could not compare. Lu Yi spent a day at home, and then went back to Ling Luo Peak the next day. Otherwise, the house would have been overcrowded. No sooner had Lu Yi arrived outside his cave mansion than he saw two figures standing gracefully. It was Donggong Mingyue and Liu Ningxuang. The news of Lu Yi's return to White Cloud sect had spread far and wide, and the two of them had naturally gotten the message. Upon seeing Lu Yi, Donggong Mingyue's eyes brightened. She threw herself into Lu Yi's arms and hugged him, pouting as she said, "Senior brother, why were you gone for so long? It's been almost 3 months." Lu Yi immediately felt awkward, as he had spent 2 of those months at 10,000 Flowers sect, mostly dual cultivating with Yunzai. Then Lu Yi recalled Yunzai's earnest request before he left. She had asked him to engage in dual cultivation with his senior sister and junior sister sooner. Chapter 336, 158, Unprecedented Generous Task Rewards Extra for 1,400 Monthly Tickets. Chapter 336, Chapter 158, Unprecedented Generous Task Rewards Extra for 1,400 Monthly Tickets. Lu Yi pondered the problem while Liu Ningxuang walked over, grabbed Donggong Mingyue by the collar, and dragged her away. Donggong Mingyue flailed her arms and legs, very dissatisfied. "Wah wah wah, despicable senior sister, you're doing this to me again." Liu Ningxuang glanced at Donggong Mingyue, and a thread of chill dispersed. Donggong Mingyue stiffened, not daring to say much lest she be frozen by Liu Ningxuang again, like last time. She only dared to grumble in her heart. Liu Ningxuang looked at Lu Yi and smiled lightly. "It's good that you're back. We were worried when we heard that a great Mahayana ancestor ambushed you." Lu Yi smiled. "Rest assured, haven't I returned safely?" Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly and smiled. "Tell me about the things that have happened outside these days." Donggong Mingyue's eyes also sparkled, looking at Lu Yi. After all, Qingzhou had been so chaotic these days, they hadn't ventured out at all. Laughing, Lu Yi nodded and took Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue back to the cave mansion, where he brought out some fine wine. The 3 of them drank and chatted, with Lu Yi sharing some of his recent experiences. As the outer sect was in disarray, most of what he had to say was not good, causing Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue to frown. Lu Yi, however, did not mention the matters of dual cultivation. He felt it might be better to discuss it separately. That was an experience he had learned from Yunzai, considering how each time Yunzai visited, the relationship between them did not progress much. But it was after spending time alone with Yunzai that substantial progress was made. Lu Yi thought it would be better to discuss it when he was alone with his senior sister and junior sister. While they chatted and drank, they detailed many matters, drinking quite a bit. Eventually, all 3 drank quite a lot and leaned on each other, falling asleep for the night. The next day, when Lu Yi woke up, he felt heavy and a fragrant aroma hit his nose. He looked down to see Liu Ningxuang resting against his chest and Donggong Mingyue clinging to his thigh, her slender, fair legs resting on his neck. Lu Yi looked down and twitched the corner of his mouth. "What's this?" Donggong Mingyue, still groggy, felt something odd in her hand and gave it a squeeze. Lu Yi stiffened even more, his entire body going numb. The commotion was too much, waking Liu Ningxuan and Donggong Mingyue completely. Both of them opened their eyes, and seeing where Donggong Mingyue's hand was placed, their expressions froze. Even the usually composed Liu Ningxuan's face flushed with a red hue. Not to mention Donggong Mingyue. Donggong Mingyue's face turned scarlet, and she screamed, then transformed into a bolt of thunder light and dashed out of Lu Yi's cave mansion. Liu Ningxuan sat up, her black hair cascading down like a waterfall, her jade-like arms and slender legs partially visible due to her disheveled clothes. Her face was tinted with a touch of red as she looked at Lu Yi, murmuring softly, "Junior brother, how can your mind be filled with such thoughts?" Lu Yi, looking innocent, defended himself. "It wasn't my fault, it's a natural morning reaction." Liu Ningxuan huffed softly as she rose to her feet, saying, "I'm going back to cultivate." She also disappeared on the spot. Lu Yi looked down for a moment, sighing helplessly. It truly wasn't his fault. As the beautiful ladies departed, Lu Yi closed the cave mansion and entered the cultivation room. He was somewhat delighted as he began to inventory the gains from his trip. There were too many tasks, and Lu Yi had not even accepted tasks outside, planning to take them up after his return. Tasks: construct a sect protection array for 10,000 flowers sect, completed. Construct a sect protection array for Cold Winter Valley, completed. Construct a sect protection array for Wenjian Manor, completed. Kill a strong cultivator of the primordial Yang sect, completed. Kill a unification great power of the Qin family and forget River Valley, completed. Escape the blockade imposed by the three sects of the primordial Yang sect, the Qin family, and forget River Valley, completed. Escape from the hands of a great Mahayana cultivator of the primordial Yang sect, completed. These tasks were the largest, with the most generous rewards. The first three tasks involved helping three sects construct sect protection arrays, with very generous rewards. They include Black Tortoise Killing Array, Vermilion Bird Kill Array, and 9 Swords Killing Array, all of them Unification Realm Great Arrays. If he were to gather the White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and Azure Dragon's 4 Symbols Kill Arrays, they could merge into a terrifying Great Mahayana Realm Great Array, the 4 Symbols Kill Formation. Lu Yi had already learned the White Tiger Killing Formation earlier, and he could acquire the Azure Dragon Killing Formation by completing the Sect Protection Array for his own sect. In all, Lu Yi had almost acquired a Great Mahayana Realm 4 Symbols Killing Formation. With the 4 Symbols Kill Formation, coupled with the Heavenly Array map, Lu Yi's strength would significantly increase. He would then be able to set up a Great Mahayana Killing Array. Even if facing a Great Mahayana cultivator, he wouldn't necessarily have to flee. He could choose to fight directly. Of course, whether he could withstand such a fight was another matter. Besides the killing arrays, he also gained insights into Array Tao. As Lu Yi chose to accept the tasks, a booming sound echoed in his mind. It seemed as if the universe of stars unfolded before him, with truths of heaven and earth emerging in the form of array patterns, slowly being outlined. The array patterns were complex and widespread across the universe, carrying ineffable and bizarre mysteries. In Lu Yi's Danshan, Tao Mi emitted Tao sound, and 7-colored mist flowed, resonating like the sound of heaven and earth within Lu Yi's body. In Lu Yi's Spirit Sea, his golden spirit boiled, minutely tracing the changes of the universe, outlining various mysterious array patterns. Lu Yi felt his understanding of the truths of heaven and earth rapidly improving. The limits of Array Tao that he had previously mastered seemed to have found a new direction. Chapter 337, 158. Unprecedented Generous Task Rewards Extra for 1,400 Monthly Tickets Due. Chapter 337. Chapter 158. Unprecedented Generous Task Rewards Extra for 1,400 Monthly Tickets /2. Lu Yi deduced the changes of array patterns, which twisted and turned in endless variations, but all had their core, from which the myriad changes never departed. That was the ultimate truth of Array Tao, utilizing the patterns of heaven and earth and borrowing the power of heaven and earth. Lu Yi had many enlightenments and gained more directions for Array Tao enlightenment. As Lu Yi was absorbing the insights of Array Tao realm, the world around him seemed to merge with him. Complex and mysterious array patterns appeared out of nowhere beside Lu Yi as if etched by an invisible hand. Sitting cross-legged, Lu Yi was surrounded by array patterns, as if he had become one with the world. He represented the world, and the array patterns he depicted were the will and the actions of the world. Lu Yi's handsome face flickered with mysterious light, carrying an ethereal air as if he might ride the wind away at any moment, merging with the universe. After an indeterminate amount of time, Lu Yi finished absorbing the array Tao enlightenment from the 3 task rewards. The anomalies around his body dispersed, and he slowly opened his eyes. His dark, ink-like pupils flashed with complex array patterns that gradually faded away. Lu Yi exhaled turbid air, his expression filled with surprise. The enlightenment of array Tao from these 3 task rewards was greater than he had imagined. Lu Yi felt he had grasped the core of array Tao. By acting as a representative of heaven and earth, if he continued down this path, he might reach the pinnacle of array Tao practitioners, entering the Tao through arrays to become an array Tao immortal and comprehend the laws of array Tao. Although he was still some distance away from comprehending the laws, his progress was still immense. If the current Lu Yi were to set up the great array for the 10,000 Flowers sect, he would not need 9 high-grade heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the unification realm. 3 would be enough to fully manifest the effects of the great array. It was evident how great his improvement was. Lu Yi even grasped the direction of the great Mahayana array, and might be able to evolve his own great Mahayana array, or even a more powerful tribulation crossing array. After all, array Tao, in essence, is an expression of the power of heaven and earth. The myriad changes never depart from this principle. As long as he acted on this fundamental basis, to evolve a great Mahayana array or even a tribulation crossing array, it was not out of reach. Furthermore, if Lu Yi's array Tao realm were to improve again, deducing his own immortal array was not entirely impossible. As for now, Lu Yi felt there was no need to be overly ambitious and could take things step by step. He had an idea and muttered to himself, "I want to deduce my own unification array." Task: Deduce unification array. Reward: Enhancement of array Tao enlightenment. Accept the task, yes, no. Lu Yi's eyes brightened. This was indeed task publishing in action. Naturally, Lu Yi accepted. If that's the case, Lu Yi had a daring idea. He continued to mutter to himself, "I want to deduce my own Qi cultivation array." Task: Deduce Qi cultivation array. Reward: Enhancement of array Tao enlightenment. Accept the task, yes, no. Lu Yi accepted the task and muttered again, "I want to deduce my own foundation establishment array." Thus, Lu Yi issued tasks one after another, deducing arrays for every realm from Qi cultivation to unification, publishing tasks for all of them. Judging by this trend, his array Tao enlightenment would likely greatly increase. Perhaps, there was a chance to surpass the Great Success realm, reaching the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Lu Yi thought it over and muttered again, "I want to deduce my own Great Mahayana formation." Task: Deduce Great Mahayana formation. Reward: Enhancement of array Tao enlightenment, 1 innate array pattern fragment. Accept the task, yes, no. Lu Yi's eyes lit up, noticing the change in the reward for the task. Innate array pattern fragment, what is that? Lu Yi was curious, but unable to obtain detailed information as he had not yet completed the task. Naturally, Lu Yi accepted the task, and then muttered to himself again, "I want to deduce my own tribulation crossing array." Task: Deduce tribulation crossing array. Reward: Enhancement of array Tao enlightenment, a strand of array Tao law. Accept the task, yes, no. Hiss. Seeing the reward for the task, Lu Yi couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Law. It was another time Lu Yi had come across the law. The last time he encountered the law was the Immortal law, and that was related to an immortal task, earning him the reward. This time, through his own enlightenment of the tribulation crossing array, he would also be rewarded with a law. This reward was too generous. Lu Yi's heartbeat quickened, and he immediately accepted the task. He must deduce his own tribulation crossing array. Lu Yi firmly resolved in his heart, this law was too tempting. After claiming the rewards for the first 3 tasks, Lu Yi began to claim the reward for the 4th task. Task: Kill a strong member of the primordial Yang sect. Completed. Reward: Unification Realm Spiritual Wine Recipe, Primordial Yang Wine, Primordial Yang Fruit /5, Yuan Yin Fruit /5, High-Grade Spiritual Device Soul Suppressing Seal. Claim the reward, yes, no. This was the task for Lu Yi, killing a cultivator of the primordial Yang sect on his visit to the 10,000 Flowers sect, with exceptionally generous rewards. Lu Yi carefully reviewed it, and his expression quickly became odd. The primordial Yang wine was a type of liquor meant only for male cultivators. Drinking it would enhance one's Yang energy, significantly boosting performance in that regard. Moreover, this primordial Yang wine could strengthen the body, improve the quality of spiritual energy, and speed up the comprehension of the Yang aspect of the Yin-Yang Tao. Looking at this primordial Yang wine, Lu Yi was at a loss for words. What on earth is this spiritual wine? Even though the effects were not bad, none of them were practical for him. The first one goes without saying. Yuns, I would have the most say in that. Chapter 338, 158. Unprecedentedly generous task rewards extra for 1,400 monthly tickets 3. Chapter 338. Chapter 158. Unprecedentedly generous task rewards extra for 1,400 monthly tickets /3. The second issue. Lu Yi's physical body has already become extremely strong. How much could this primordial Yang wine enhance it? Thirdly, the quality of Lu Yi's spiritual energy is also unimaginably high. Have you heard about the extreme-level Immortal scripture? Have you considered foundation establishment with the aid of Tao spiritual treasures? And the last one, accelerating the understanding of the Yin-Yang Tao. Does Lu Yi even need this? All he needs to do is engage in dual cultivation to improve, right? And the rate of improvement is very swift. To Lu Yi, this primordial Yang wine is completely akin to something that's tasteless when eaten, yet a pity to discard. Lu Yi, feeling helpless, planned to seal away this spiritual wine in the future. However, the effects of the primordial Yang fruit and Yuan Yin fruit made Lu Yi's eyes light up. The effects of the primordial Yang fruit and Yuan Yin fruit are somewhat similar to those of the primordial Yang wine. After consumption, they can deepen the understanding of the Yin-Yang Tao, and no distinction is made between men and women, allowing both to consume it. The effects are best when consumed before dual cultivation. Lu Yi's eyes immediately brightened at this thought. Yunzai, his senior sister and junior sister, didn't have any task, and it was already difficult for them to comprehend the Yin-Yang Tao. If they used these spirit fruits, the effect would surely be much better. It's a pity that there aren't many of them. Lu Yi felt a touch of regret in his heart. The last reward, naturally, was the most precious. A high-grade spiritual artifact is the most powerful among cultivation treasures aside from top-grade spiritual artifacts. Even a tribulation-crossing ancestor might not possess a high-grade spiritual device, as these treasures are too precious, and the heavenly materials and earthly treasures needed for their forging are incredibly rare in this world. Not to mention, even with the right materials, it requires a sufficiently powerful artifact refiner to successfully craft one, and typical refiners may not be able to accomplish it. The effect of the soul-suppressing seal also made Lu Yi's eyes light up. This big seal has a dual effect. If used on oneself, it can protect the primordial spirit and nurture spiritual power, similar to the soul's stabilizing pearl. However, if it is used against an enemy, it can suppress the opponent's primordial spirit and also strike their physical body, delivering a dual blow with immense power that is very hard to guard against. Lu Yi took out the soul-suppressing seal to examine it. It was a dark seal as black as jade, about the size of a fist, with a ghastly face carved on it. Wisps of black mist drifted from it, adding to its mysterious aura. Lu Yi brought the soul-suppressing seal into his sea of consciousness, using it alongside the soul-stabilizing pearl to nurture his own spirit. In this way, his spiritual power might increase even faster. In these days, even with the use of a low-grade spiritual device like the soul-stabilizing pearl to nurture his divine soul, Lu Yi's spiritual power had become quite formidable. Now, with the soul-suppressing seal, it seemed like his next transformation wasn't far off. Task: eliminate the unification great powers of the Qin family and the Forget River Valley, completed. Reward: Unification Realm Recipe, Stir-Fried Meat. Unification Realm Spiritual Wine Recipe, Jade Spirit Wine. Would you like to accept the reward? Yes, no. This task was for Lu Yi's elimination of those 3 unification great powers from the Qin family and Forget River Valley. Back then, those 3 unification great powers had assisted Dong Mixin, so naturally, Lu Yi wouldn't hesitate to issue a task, and the rewards were extremely generous as well. 2 Unification Realm Recipes and Wine Formulas. Lu Yi carefully checked them, but soon, the smile on his face became somewhat stiff. To make the stir-fried meat, you need the meat of a Unification Realm fierce beast as the main ingredient, combined with Unification Realm heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Unification Realm fierce beasts, how easy are they to kill? Lu Yu was suddenly a bit vexed, as it seemed that crafting the spirit food would be very difficult. But the effects of this spirit food are definitely impressive, as it can enhance physical strength. Lu Yi's physical strength has been improving slowly, mainly because he lacks particularly good resources. In recent times, Lu Yi had not sought out the heavenly dragon Saint Sun to obtain true dragon essence blood, and could only rely on general heavenly materials and earthly treasures and elixirs to enhance his physical strength. These were essentially at the level of the cave void realm. At this thought, Lu Yi felt somewhat emotional and suddenly missed the heavenly dragon Saint Sun a bit. The Jade spirit wine was equally precious, capable of enhancing spiritual power, and naturally it was a good thing for Lu Yi, who could use it as well. The Jade spirit wine required materials that included heavenly materials and earthly treasures, such as Jade spirit flowers and White Moon spirit fruits as the main ingredients. Coincidentally, Lu Yi had obtained these materials as rewards from his previous missions. He instantly felt happy, considering the Jade spirit wine would be better for cultivation than stir-fried meat. Lu Yi shook his head, thinking that he might find an opportunity to travel deep into the 10,000 Beasts mountain range and hunt a few Unification Realm fierce beasts to bring back. The last two tasks were released by Lu Yi when he left the 10,000 Flowers sect. Originally, he had released only one, but after the great Mahayana ancestor from the primordial Yang sect appeared, Lu Yi simply released the second one as well. Task: break away from the primordial Yang sect, Qin family, and the Forget River Valley's triple seal completed. Reward: 10,000-year Spirit Jade X10, Unification Skill, Forget River Curse. Accept reward, yes, no. This Spirit Jade is a stone formed by the solidification of spirit marrow over long periods. Previously, in the Immortal Sword Sect's ruins, the unparalleled Immortal of the Immortal Sword Sect used this kind of Spirit Jade to seal himself and slept for 1,000,000 years. Although this 100,000-year Spirit Jade is far inferior to the 1,000,000-year Spirit Jade, it is still exceedingly rare among heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Have as many as 10 pieces is considerably precious. The Forget River Curse is also an extremely precious art. The Forget River is a legendary underworld river, the waters of which can make one forget all the memories of the past life. Although the effects of this Forget River Curse are far from those of the Forget River water, named after the Forget River, it naturally won't be weak. This art is targeted at the divine soul, similar to the secret technique amnesia that Lu Yi had previously obtained. However, this is much stronger than the amnesia. When utilized to the extreme, it can even wash away all consciousness of the enemy, causing their spirit to perish, leaving only the physical body. Lu Yi read the introduction to the Forget River Curse and felt somewhat shocked. As a spiritual art, the Forget River Curse was difficult to defend against, with few means of defense. If mastered, it would become another trump card. One must admit, the rewards are shockingly generous, and Lu Yi was very satisfied. After claiming the rewards, he held 10 palm-sized white jade stones in his hand, from which Lu Yi could sense immense spiritual power fluctuations. The concentration of spiritual energy from these stones far exceeded that of spirit marrow. Just exposing a single piece of spirit jade in the cultivation room was enough to fill it with a mist of spiritual energy, suggesting just how rich this energy was. Even with his current cultivation base, Lu Yi might not be able to withstand such concentrations of spiritual energy. Lu Yi carefully stored the 10 pieces of 10,000-year spirit jade, planning to use them later. He also committed the Forget River Curse to memory, intending to prioritize its cultivation later. The reward for the last task was also extremely precious, perhaps even the most valuable among all the rewards. We'll update first, corrections later tilde. Chapter 339, 159 Master's Law. Chapter 339, Chapter 159 Master's Law. Task: escape from a great Mahayana cultivator of the primordial Yang sect, completed. Reward: primordial Yang tree seed /2, Yuan Yin tree seed /2, Yin Yang Jade ***1. Accept the reward, yes, no. It must be said that it's truly a generous reward for a task involving a great Mahayana cultivator. The primordial yang fruit and yuan yin fruit are extremely precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures, capable of granting an understanding of the yin-yang Tao. And although they're not quite as exceptional as immortal trees, the difference isn't significant. If the seeds of the primordial yang tree and yuan yin tree are properly cultivated, they too can grow into ancient trees, which would allow for the frequent harvesting of primordial yang fruits and yuan yin fruits, making them incredibly valuable. The yin-yang jade could surpass both the primordial yang fruit and yuan yin fruit as a stronger heavenly material and earthly treasure. Containing the yin-yang Tao within, when placed in water, it can transform the water into a yin-yang spirit spring. Bathing in it is greatly beneficial for cultivators, imbuing their physical bodies with the qualities of yin-yang power and also facilitating the contemplation of the yin-yang Tao. This is an exceptionally rare heavenly material and earthly treasure, verging on the immortal treasures. Lu Yi collected the reward. The primordial yang tree seeds glowed a reddish gold, warm to the touch, about the size of chestnuts, radiating a faint light like tiny suns. The yuan yin tree seeds, on the other hand, were pitch black, with a hint of cool chill, roughly the same size as the primordial yang tree seeds, resembling little black holes. The yin-yang jade was intertwined with black and white, the white containing black and the black containing white, with intricate and mysterious Tao patterns within. These were the yin-yang Tao patterns naturally formed inside the jade, illustrating the natural Tao's rendition of the yin-yang Tao. Lu Yi went outside his cave mansion to find an uninhabited spot and planted both the primordial yang tree seeds and yuan yin tree seeds. Fortunately, as a direct disciple of his master, his cave mansion was not far from the Ling Luo Peak, with only his senior and junior sisters' cave mansions nearby, and the surrounding area was very spacious. Nobody would usually come up here, so there was little risk of theft. Of course, truth be told, it's unlikely for anyone in the White Cloud sect to dare steal Lu Yi's possessions. After planting the seeds, Lu Yi sprinkled some spirit milk to nourish them, and then used the power of nature to promote growth for a moment. Soon after, strange fluctuations emitted from the primordial yang tree seeds and yuan yin tree seeds as sprouts broke through the surface of the seeds, emerging from the ground, one gold, one black, each emitting an enigmatic Tao Yun. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow, somewhat startled. As expected of heavenly materials and earthly treasures close to immortal treasures, even as mere saplings, they possessed such profoundness. Once these ancient trees mature, even without consuming primordial yang fruits or yuan yin fruits, simply meditating under them can enhance the understanding of the yin-yang Tao. These 4 trees of the primordial yang and yuan yin were in themselves a cultivation holy land. Under normal circumstances, it might take thousands to tens of thousands of years for the primordial yang tree and yuan yin tree to reach maturity, but with the nourishment of spirit milk, coupled with the growth acceleration from the power of nature, their maturation could be hastened by some time. All he needed to do was occasionally use the power of nature to promote their growth, and such frequent use might even enhance the power of nature itself, a worthwhile pastime indeed. Naturally, given the high level of the primordial yang tree and yuan yin tree, even though Lu Yi's understanding of the natural Tao had reached the domain realm, stimulating their growth would still take quite a long time. Just consider the Rashomon ancient tree. He had it for over 20 years, regularly watering it with spirit milk and occasionally nurturing it with the power of nature, yet it had only grown slightly taller to date. Lu Yi conservatively estimated that it might take a few thousand years to fully mature the Rashomon ancient tree. The primordial yang tree and yuan yin tree weren't as challenging as the Rashomon ancient tree, so it might take around 100 years perhaps. Fortunately, Lu Yi had time on his side. Being a divinity transformation cultivator, his lifespan spanned thousands of years, and he was not even 100 years old yet. By normal human standards of a 100-year lifespan, he would be around 2 to 3 years old now. After taking care of the primordial yang tree and yuan yin tree, Lu Yi was about to leave when he turned around to see a white figure standing not too far away, giving him quite a start. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was his master. With a wry tone, Lu Yi said, "Master, could you make a bit of noise when you approach? You could scare someone to death like that." The Ling Luo Peak master, looking sleepy, glanced at Lu Yi and scoffed. "I did come over normally, it's just that you didn't notice, which shows you still have a long way to go." Lu Yi was at a loss for words. How could he compare with his master, whose strength was inscrutable to him? The Ling Luo Peak Master gazed at the four saplings on the ground, a hint of surprise in her bleary eyes. Primordial Yang trees and Yuan Yin trees. You really do have extraordinary luck to find such seeds. Lu Yi smiled. I just happened upon them on my last outing by a stroke of fortune. The Ling Luo Peak Master squatted down, her black hair cascading down, and admired the young plants. These are treasures indeed. Although they're not quite the Rashomon ancient tree, with proper cultivation, they'll do well and could deepen your understanding of the yin-yang Tao. Lu Yi nodded with a smile. You're absolutely right, Master. The Ling Luo Peak Master pondered for a moment and then said, Your fate is amazing, and the treasures you've obtained are becoming more and more significant. This area on top of Ling Luo Peak, you can have it all to yourself. Any heavenly materials and earthly treasures worth cultivating can be planted in this region. Lu Yi's eyes lit up, and he gratefully responded, That would be for the best, thank you, Master. The Ling Luo Peak Master yawned, glancing sideways at Lu Yi with a sneer. Do you still regard me as your master? After returning, you didn't even check in to assure your master of your safety. Chapter 340, 159 Master's Law 2. Chapter 340, Chapter 159 Master's Law /2. Lu Yi chuckled a bit sheepishly. I was just afraid of disturbing Master's sleep. Huh? The Ling Luo Peak Master scoffed, seeing through Lu Yi's lie in one go. Or perhaps you forgot after being in the tender land of Ningxuang and Little Minju. Lu Yi became even more embarrassed and said, Since that's the case, why doesn't Master enlighten me on the Tao now? It's been quite some time since I've had the pleasure of hearing Master's teachings, and I have missed it. In the past 3 months, Lu Yi had been away and missed out on 3 chances for sudden enlightenment. That was a big loss. The expression of Ling Luo Peak Master froze, and she said, It really wouldn't have mattered if you hadn't come to report your safety. With a serious face, Lu Yi said, How could that be all right? Master, I missed you very much. The expression of the Ling Luo Peak Master turned dark, and she said helplessly, Is it not just a sermon? Let's go, let's go. Seeing this, Lu Yi's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, Right, since I haven't heard Master's teachings for 3 months, doesn't that mean I should be told 3 times? The Ling Luo Peak Master narrowed her eyes, a threatening look in them. Lu Yi promptly cleared his throat and said, Actually, once is also fine. HMPH, the Ling Luo Peak Master snorted, That's more like it. Lu Yi followed the Ling Luo Peak Master to the main hall on the peak summit. A few hours later, Ling Luo Peak Master took a sip of tea and looked at Lu Yi with disdain. The lecture is over, you can go now. Lu Yi's face was filled with a satisfied smile. Thank you, Master. 1 chance for sudden enlightenment secured. Just as Lu Yi was about to leave, he suddenly thought of the yin-yang jade in his hand and the spiritual spring outside the bamboo house. Lu Yi came up with a bold idea and said, Oh, Master, I've also acquired an exotic treasure while I was outside. Upon hearing this, the Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at Lu Yi. Oh, what kind of heavenly materials and earthly treasures? In the eyes of the Ling Luo Peak Master, Lu Yi's luck was undoubtedly excellent. Whether it was the Rashomon ancient tree, the primordial Yang tree, or the Yuan Yin tree, all were extremely rare treasures, yet her own disciple managed to obtain them. Even the Ling Luo Peak Master was a bit curious about the exotic treasure that Lu Yi got. Lu Yi smiled and took out the yin-yang jade. It's this yin-yang jade. Seeing the yin-yang jade, even the usually languid eyes of the Ling Luo Peak Master showed a hint of surprise. Yin-yang jade. This is a treasure formed by the condensation of the law of yin-yang. There's actually such a thing in Tiananmen. Ling Luo Peak Master reached out her hand and summoned the yin-yang jade into her palm. She observed the Tao patterns inside the jade and clicked her tongue in wonder. The jade is sentient, naturally carved with yin-yang Tao patterns. It indeed counts as an exotic treasure and is very beneficial for understanding the yin-yang Tao. If placed in the spiritual spring, the yin-yang jade can transform it into a yin-yang spirit spring, which is extremely beneficial for cultivation. Wait a moment. As she spoke, the Ling Luo Peak Master seemed to have realized something. She turned her head to look at Lu Yi with a stiff and somewhat fierce expression. You little rascal, don't tell me you are coveting my spiritual spring. Lu Yi chuckled sheepishly. Master, the yin-yang jade is quite remarkable, right? If it were put into Master's spiritual spring, we could all make use of it. Before he finished speaking, Lu Yi was flicked on the forehead by the Ling Luo Peak Master. There was a crisp sound of impact, and Lu Yi's forehead immediately swelled up. Lu Yi clutched his forehead, squatted on the ground, and grimaced, hiss. So painful. Lu Yi looked at the Ling Luo Peak Master innocently, while she grew even more infuriated, glaring at Lu Yi. You brat, do you also want to share a spiritual spring with your master for bathing? This is an act of betrayal and unfilial conduct. The more the Ling Luo Peak Master thought about it, the angrier she became, repeatedly flicking her fingers, making continuous snapping sounds. Lu Yi could barely endure it, feeling as if his brain was about to break apart. He hurriedly said, Master, I was wrong. He hadn't really thought of those things okay. Lu Yi felt wronged, as if he was being falsely accused. The Ling Luo Peak Master snorted coldly and glanced at the yin-yang jade. After pondering, she said, Nevertheless, the yin-yang jade is indeed not bad. Since that's the case, I, as your master, will make an exception and create another spiritual spring for you. When the time comes, the two springs can be connected, and the yin-yang spirit spring can be shared as well. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi's eyes brightened and he smiled. Thank you, master. Although ordinary water could be turned into yin-yang spring water, it was naturally much better to have a spiritual spring. The Ling Luo Peak Master nodded. She took the yin-yang jade to the pond outside the bamboo house. The pond contained milky white spiritual spring water, like milk, with wisps of white mist drifting above it, all formed by the condensation of spiritual energy. Lu Yi absorbed a wisp of the mist and immediately felt the spiritual energy in his body surge, which was alarmingly profound. When he first came to the top of Ling Luo Peak, Lu Yi felt that the spiritual spring seemed very extraordinary. Now it seemed it was even more precious than he had imagined. Seeing Lu Yi's alarmed expression, the Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at him and said, Don't even think about entering the spiritual spring. Even with your current physical body, you wouldn't be able to withstand the spiritual energy inside. Lu Yi's eyes widened in astonishment. Is the spiritual energy inside so rich? Lu Yi found it hard to believe. You see, although his cultivation in body refinement had not yet reached the Mahayana realm, it most certainly had reached the unification realm. If we're just talking about physical strength, perhaps not even a cultivator in the Mahayana realm would be as strong as he was. Even with his current physical strength, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. How rich was the spiritual energy inside? Could it be a spring from the Tribulation Transcendence realm? Chapter 341, 159, Master's Law 3. Chapter 341, Chapter 159, Master's Law /3. If that's the case, then just the spiritual spring alone is probably no worse than the yin-yang jade. It's no wonder that my own master possesses such marvelous treasures. I am increasingly finding the depths of my master to be unfathomable. The Ling Luo Peak Master did not answer Lu Yi's question, but instead gazed at the pond for a moment and then casually pointed, causing the ground not far from the pond to sink down silently as if the earth itself was changing shape. Lu Yi didn't even feel any fluctuation of spiritual energy. Lu Yi's pupils constricted, his face filled with shock. The power of laws. Having grasped a strand of immortal law, Lu Yi had some understanding of the power of laws. The method used by his master was definitely not something as simple as ordinary spiritual energy. It was the power of laws. Only the power of laws could silently alter the entire landscape. Glancing at Lu Yi, the Ling Luo Peak Master yawned lazily and chuckled. Quite perceptive, aren't you? To be able to sense that this is the power of laws. It should be difficult to detect even for someone who possesses a strand of immortal law. Lu Yi's heart skipped a beat, as he hadn't expected his master to already know about his strand of immortal law. Then Lu Yi realized, since his own master possessed the power of laws, she must have noticed when he was using the immortal law during his tribulation. This realization made Lu Yi even more astonished. Originally, Lu Yi thought that his master might be a Tribulation Transcendence realm ancestor-level figure. He thought he had already greatly esteemed his master. After all, she seemed to be only 1,000 years or so old, and reaching the Tribulation Transcendence realm at that age was already absurd. Now, having witnessed his master using the power of laws, Lu Yi found he had likely still underestimated her. Even if his master was only a tribulation crossing practitioner, having mastered the power of laws meant her strength was probably incomparable to that of ordinary tribulation crossing practitioners, akin to an immortal's. Lu Yi, possessing a strand of immortal law, understood best the might of laws. Lu Yi smiled. Disciple has gained some insight into the immortal sword scripture, and having experienced enlightenment at the ruins of the immortal sword sect, managed to grasp a strand of immortal law. However, compared to master, it is still far from enough. Lu Yi realized that his master's laws were likely not as simple as just a strand. The Ling Luo Peak Master with hair standing on end said frustratedly, "A mere divinity transformation cultivator grasping a strand of law, and you're still not satisfied. If this were to spread, even the immortals would be shocked." Lu Yi smiled sheepishly. The Ling Luo Peak Master shook her head without saying more, and with another point, formed another hollow in the ground. 2 hollows in total, together with the original pond, formed a triangle of 3 points. Another point from the Ling Luo Peak Master, and 2 channels emerged from the edges of the spirit pond, each leading to one of the small pools. Meanwhile, she formed a series of Tao patterns at the outlet of the spirit pond. They are a manifestation of laws, similar to array patterns but differing in essence. Laws themselves are part of the power of heaven and earth. Cultivators in possession of laws can achieve things similar to array patterns, but their application is limited to the specific laws they have mastered and not as wide-ranging as array patterns. As the Tao patterns formed, streams of spiritual spring water flowed through the channels toward the 2 small pools, and as the water passed through the Tao patterns, its potency became less concentrated. It remained milky white, but the amount of spiritual energy was significantly reduced. Lu Yi understood that this was the Tao pattern diluting the spiritual spring. The Ling Luo Peak Master spoke. "I've diluted the concentration of the spiritual spring to prevent you, boy, from exploding and dying." Lu Yi nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you, Master." Then Lu Yi felt puzzled again. Why did Master create 2 pools? The Ling Luo Peak Master replied, "I made one for Ningxuang and little Minju as well. It will be of great benefit to them." Lu Yi nodded, feeling happy at heart. With such a spiritual spring, his senior sister and junior sister's cultivation speed would also increase, and ultimately, the rewards for their practice tasks would be more substantial. Naturally, Lu Yi was very pleased. Soon, the water from the spiritual spring flowed into the 2 smaller ponds, and the Ling Luo Peak Master tossed the yin-yang jade into the main pond. A moment later, threads of yin-yang Tao patterns flickered within the milky spiritual spring, and a mysterious conception slowly emanated, but was quickly covered up by the spring again. Lu Yi was startled and stared wide-eyed. This is the effect of the yin-yang jade, and it's not even comparable to this spiritual spring. Lu Yi couldn't believe it, knowing that the yin-yang jade was a heavenly material and earthly treasure close to an immortal treasure, yet it was less remarkable than this spiritual spring. Is this spiritual spring even more precious than the yin-yang jade? Could it be an immortal treasure? Lu Yi felt a tingle on his scalp. Could his master really be using an immortal treasure spiritual spring for bathing? Just who exactly was his master, and how could she be so extravagant? Without more than a glance at Lu Yi, the Ling Luo Peak Master merely said, "This spiritual spring is not an item of the worldly realm, it's extremely precious." Lu Yi's expression turned somewhat numb as he nodded, "I see." When his master first saw the Rashomon ancient tree, she only described it as a decent immortal treasure, but to think she said this spiritual spring was extremely precious. It seemed that the spiritual spring was even more valuable than the Rashomon ancient tree. Lu Yi realized that he might have underestimated his master. This woman who loved to sleep and eat, could she be an immortal? Lu Yi felt a tingle on his scalp again. Then he started to feel excited again. If his master was an immortal, then after all, he was the direct disciple of an immortal. Wouldn't that mean he could strut around Tiananmen confidently? Lu Yi got a little excited. Although the yin-yang Tao patterns had disappeared, their effect remained. Lu Yi could sense the Tao Yun of yin-yang Tao. This Tao Yun spread from the main pond into the 2 smaller ponds. This way, the 2 smaller ponds could also enjoy the effect of the yin-yang jade, and on top of that, the extremely precious effect of the spiritual spring mentioned by his master. Lu Yi was eager to try. "Master, may your disciple take a bath." The Ling Luo Peak Master replied, "What's the hurry?" With a flick of her finger, the next moment, 3 small ponds were enclosed by a bamboo fence, trapping Lu Yi and the Ling Luo Peak Master inside. Between the 3 ponds, bamboo walls abruptly surfaced, as if they had always stood there, segregating the 3 ponds from one another. Lu Yi was frozen in shock. This materializing things from the void, what kind of technique was this? creating something out of nothing. As far as Lu Yi was aware, even a tribulation-crossing practitioner shouldn't be able to make something appear out of nowhere, could they? Lu Yi couldn't comprehend what method his master had used. His master really must be an immortal, right? Lu Yi was utterly astonished. After manifesting the bamboo walls, the Ling Luo Peak Master nodded in satisfaction, stretched lazily, and said, "It's ready. You can go and call Ningxuang and little Minju, let them enjoy it too." Lu Yi finally came back to his senses. He looked at the bamboo walls and for some reason felt a touch of disappointment. He then nodded, "All right, Master. I'll go call Junior Sister and little Minju right away." Updating first, revisions to follow tilde. Chapter 342, 160, Senior Sister, Can I Touch It? Chapter 342, Chapter 160, Senior Sister, Can I Touch It? Lu Yi descended from the summit of Ling Luo Peak and arrived at the entrance of Liu Ningxuang's cave mansion. "Senior Sister, your junior brother has come to visit." Before long, Liu Ningxuang, dressed in a white dress and as cold as an immortal, opened the door of the mansion and looked at Lu Yi with some confusion. "Junior brother, what brings you here?" Lu Yi smiled and said, "Master asked me to find you so we can take a bath together." Liu Ningxuang clearly stunned for a moment, her cold and pretty face showing a hint of bewilderment. "Take a bath?" Lu Yi spoke, "It's hard to explain now. You'll understand once we get to Master's place." Liu Ningxuang did not ask any further and nodded slightly. "Let's go fetch Junior Sister as well, and bring her along," Lu Yi said as he flew toward Donggong Mingyue's cave mansion. Soon the two of them arrived at Donggong Mingyue's cave mansion and called her out. When Donggong Mingyue saw Lu Yi, her eyes sparkled and her face blushed. She couldn't look directly at Lu Yi, apparently because of the morning's incident. "Senior brother, why are you here?" Lu Yi smiled and said, "I came to invite you to take a bath together." Donggong Mingyue. Her pretty face turned bright red, her eyes widened as she looked at Lu Yi, then glanced at Liu Ningxuang beside him and stuttered, "Bah, bath, together. And with Senior Sister too. This isn't appropriate, is it?" Seeing Donggong Mingyue's face turn red and her incredulous expression, Lu Yi felt odd, sensing that his junior sister might be thinking of something different from what he had in mind. Lu Yi laughed and said, "What are you thinking about? It's Master who asked us to go together to the peak." Upon hearing this, Donggong Mingyue paused. "Master asked us to go." Lu Yi smiled and said, "Let's head to the peak first so we don't keep Master waiting." Donggong Mingyue, her face blank, nodded, and then the three of them proceeded to the top of Ling Luo Peak. When they reached the top of Ling Luo Peak, Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue immediately noticed that next to the bamboo house, there was an additional bamboo shed enveloped in white mist, obscuring the view inside. "This place, it used to be where the spirit pond was, right?" Donggong Mingyue was a bit puzzled. "How did it turn into this?" At that moment the Ling Luo Peak Master appeared suddenly, her pretty face displaying a lazy tiredness. She spoke, "You're here. Let's go in together. Ningxuang, little Minju, this is your pool and this one is for you, lad," she said, pointing at the two doors of the bamboo shed. Understanding the situation, Lu Yi nodded slightly. "Okay." Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue exchanged glances, both blank. "Master, what's this all about?" Liu Ningxuang asked. Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at Lu Yi. "This lad obtained a piece of yin-yang jade, extremely precious. He came to consult with me, and we used this yin-yang jade along with the spiritual spring to create 2 more spirit ponds for you to bathe in. You should check it out. It's extremely beneficial for you." Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue finally understood. The two looked at Lu Yi somewhat surprised. "Senior brother has found another treasure. Your luck is really too good," Donggong Mingyue said with a quirky expression. Lu Yi smiled modestly. "It's just a fortunate coincidence." "All right, let's go in." The Ling Luo Peak Master stretched lazily, her loose dress faintly revealing her pale skin. She stepped forward toward the main pool's entrance. Lu Yi naturally entered the door of his pool as well. Upon entering, there was a small pool enclosed by bamboo walls. Perhaps due to the complete integration of yin-yang jade with the spiritual spring, at that moment, strands of mystical Tao Yun emerged in the spring, and the characters of yin-yang Tao flickered within, making it look quite extraordinary. From the other side of the bamboo wall came the exclamations of Donggong Mingyue. Clearly both she and Senior Sister were quite astonished. On the other side, Lu Yi heard the sound of clothing over skin, followed by the sound of water rippling open, and then the lazy sigh of his master. Truly comfortable. Then the voice of Ling Luo Peak Master continued, "Go in and try, the effect is quite decent." Lu Yi also took off his magic robe and entered the spiritual spring. As soon as he entered the spiritual spring, Lu Yi's expression subtly changed. He could feel strands of extremely dense spiritual energy burrowing into his body. The concentration was extremely high, yet it was very gentle. It was even comparable to the effect of centennial spirit marrow. Lu Yi was somewhat shocked. This was the diluted spiritual spring by Master, yet it still had such effects. He wondered how strong the effects of the main pool would be. Beyond that, Lu Yi was surprised to find that besides the spiritual spring, there was also an extraordinarily unique power contained within it. This power was like a clear spring, cleansing Lu Yi's body and spirit, washing over everything from the inside out. Lu Yi was astounded. This spiritual spring, can it heal injuries? Can it enlighten the mind and reveal one's nature? Lu Yi was extremely surprised. From the direction of the main pool came the voice of Ling Luo Peak Master, all slightly surprised. "Oh, only these effects for you. It seems your foundation is even more solid than I thought. This spiritual spring can repair the foundation, solidify the base, temper the flesh, enhance spiritual power, cleanse the body inside and out from evil spirits and heart demons, and of course, enlightening the mind and revealing nature." Hearing the conversation between Lu Yi and the Ling Luo Peak Master, there was commotion from Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue's side. Donggong Mingyue was extremely surprised. Is the effect of this spiritual spring really that good? Ling Luo Peak Master spoke. "What are you two waiting for? Take a dip. It's very comfortable, it can cleanse the fatigue from cultivation. After bathing and then cultivating, it will definitely increase your efficiency by half, plus now that it's joined with the lad's yin-yang jade, if you conscientiously comprehend it, maybe you even have a chance to understand the mighty Tao of yin and yang." Chapter 343-160, Senior Sister Can I Touch It? 2. Chapter 343, Chapter 160, Senior Sister Can I Touch It? /2. Donggong Mingyue's voice was somewhat hesitant, but with Junior Sister and I together. Liu Ningxuang's voice was also rarely tinged with a hint of embarrassment. It's just too strange to be naked in front of each other. The voice of the Ling Luo Peak Master was unconcerned. "Are you two still shy? What's there to be shy about? You're both women." Lu Yi felt a bit odd inside, thinking about his junior sister and senior sister bathing together in the pool, and he couldn't help but crack a smile, deciding not to dwell on that thought any longer. Then Lu Yi thought of something else. His spiritual power was strong enough, and these bamboo walls couldn't possibly block his spiritual power, right? Lu Yi had a bold idea in mind, and hesitated over whether or not to act on it. Just at that moment, the voice of the Ling Luo Peak Master sounded. "Lu Yi, if you dare to use your divine sense, old lady will kill you, you hear?" "Lu Yi." He spoke earnestly. "Master is going too far. How could your disciple possibly be that kind of person?" From the Ling Luo Peak Master's pool came the sound of water, as she leaned against the side and said, "It's just a precaution, giving you a shot in advance." Lu Yi said with emphasis on every word, "There won't be any just in case." Donggong Mingyue and Liu Ningxuang on the side also seemed to undergo some kind of inner struggle, but in the end, the sound of clothing being removed could be heard, followed by their entry into the pool, rippling the water. Soon, Donggong Mingyue and Liu Ningxuang both let out faint sounds of surprise. Clearly, they too had discovered something unusual about the spiritual spring, and were very astonished. The Ling Luo Peak Master laughed. "How is it? Not bad, right? This spiritual spring, if one bathed in it regularly, I fear the cultivation speed would increase significantly," Liu Ningxuang exclaimed in amazement. The Ling Luo Peak Master chuckled. "With such a spiritual spring to bathe in, how could there not be fine wine and food? You little rascal, hurry up and bring out some spiritual wine and spirit food." Lu Yi naturally had no objections, but glancing at the bamboo wall, he said, "Master, how am I to give them to you?" "Just toss them over the top," the Ling Luo Peak Master instructed. Lu Yi took out jar after jar of spiritual wine and dish after dish of spirit food, and threw them towards the direction of the Ling Luo Peak Master, his senior sister, and junior sister. Then he poured himself a cup of red flame wine and started to drink. With a gulping of red flame wine, it turned into a ball of flame as though spreading through Lu Yi's body, and as he was immersed in the spiritual spring, gentle and mellow spiritual energy was also blending in from the outside world, nourishing his physical body. Lu Yi felt as if his entire being was floating on air, as though he was high up in the clouds. All the weariness of his body and mind seemed washed away. His spirit felt pure and clear, in an excellent state, as if he had returned to the carefree days of early childhood. It had been a long time since he felt this peaceful. Before he had gotten the task panel, Lu Yi's days had been quite idle, but of course they were happy nonetheless. After gaining the task panel, perhaps with added desires wanting for more, he couldn't just lie flat. Naturally, he felt a bit more fatigued. To be honest, though his cultivation base rise was astonishingly fast, and his combat strength greatly enhanced after obtaining the task panel, Lu Yi also exerted much more effort than before. Perhaps part of the reason was that with his originally limited talent, no matter how hard he tried, there was a ceiling to his abilities, so it seemed reasonable to take it easy. Now every step of progress was visible, and naturally he pursued more and more. The drive grew stronger, as did his desires. Lu Yi didn't think this was a bad thing. On the contrary, he felt it was good. Who doesn't hope their efforts yield rewards? But occasionally to take a step back, to slow down, is also a way of life. Lu Yi took another sip of wine and sighed lightly. This is life. The Ling Luo Peak Master laughed. Right. Soaking in the spiritual spring, sipping spiritual wine, living each day freely and unrestrained. Isn't this the true essence of cultivation? What is cultivation for if not to transcend the world, to transcend oneself? If you can't transcend in cultivation, how will you transcend the world? Hearing this, Lu Yi suddenly had a flash of insight, as if he had grasped something, yet not quite. He thought his master's words made a lot of sense. In the past, perhaps he would have used this flash of insight to instantly utilize his allowance for sudden enlightenment, to understand the previous epiphanies. But now, Lu Yi hesitated, letting that flash of insight drift away with the wind. Today he'd be carefree just this once, detaching from himself, pulling away from the path of cultivation to thoroughly enjoy the moment. Lu Yi smiled slightly. Master is right. Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue were also drinking wine. Listening to the conversation, Donggong Mingyue said, Well, my thoughts are different. I still plan on diligently cultivating and becoming an immortal. Liu Ningxuang smiled faintly. Master and junior brother are both people of exceptional talent and formidable strength. We ordinary people cannot compare and can only strive to catch up, constantly advancing on the path of cultivation, unable to detach ourselves. Lu Yi said speechlessly. Junior sister and senior sister are both innate spiritual bodies. If you consider yourselves ordinary people, then I'm afraid other cultivators might as well not bother living. Donggong Mingyue took a gulp of wine and said, But compared to you, senior brother, we are pretty much like ordinary people. Lu Yi felt somewhat embarrassed hearing this. He was just an average person, not as formidable as they made him out to be. The four of them leaned on the edge of the pool, soaking in the spiritual spring, chatting from time to time, casually sipping wine, feeling relaxed and comfortable. Although Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue both talked about striving in cultivation, they still decided to relax today. Lu Yi could imagine that right now, they were probably as idle as he was, leisurely leaning against the edge of the pool. Chapter 344-160, Senior Sister Can I Touch It? 3. Chapter 344, Chapter 160, Senior Sister Can I Touch It? /3. Gradually, Donggong Mingyue drank a bit too much, constantly splashing in the water with a loud splashing sound. Lu Yi heard Donggong Mingyue's somewhat groggy voice and said enviously, Senior sister, why is this place so big? It's really enviable, if only I had the same size. Lu Yi, who was drinking, sprayed out his drink immediately. What the heck? Liu Ningxuang was also clueless, remaining silent for a moment before saying, Junior sister, you are drunk. Donggong Mingyue muttered, That's nice, senior brother will definitely like it. Lu Yi. What does this have to do with him? Lu Yi was completely numbed. Not just Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang was also somewhat numbed, her voice cold, Junior sister, don't talk nonsense. Even the Ling Luo Peak Master was coughing repeatedly, probably stunned as well. Donggong Mingyue's voice rang out again, Senior sister, can I touch it? Lu Yi. Ling Luo Peak Master. The atmosphere suddenly became a bit silent. The next moment, Lu Yi felt a chill coming from the small room of his senior sister and junior sister, and then Donggong Mingyue's voice stopped. Lu Yi felt a bit of a chill on his scalp and asked, "Senior sister, what did you do to junior sister? Is she all right?" Lu Yu was afraid that Liu Ningxuang, out of anger, might have silenced Donggong Mingyue on the spot. Liu Ningxuang's cold voice trembled slightly. Whether from anger or embarrassment, she said, "It's fine, I just froze her in ice." Lu Yu breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good." On the other hand, the Ling Luo Peak Master spoke in disbelief. "Is this what little Minju is like when she's drunk?" This was the first time the Ling Luo Peak Master had seen Donggong Mingyue drunk. Liu Ningxuang's voice was icy. "She's particularly bold today." Hearing Liu Ningxuang's icy voice, Lu Yu silently mourned for Donggong Mingyue in his mind, guessing that girl was in for some tough times. However, Lu Yu felt no sympathy for her. Even he wouldn't dare to say such things, yet she dared to, probably courting death. The three continued drinking without the sound of Donggong Mingyue, enjoying an exceptionally harmonious and quiet atmosphere. They soaked in the spiritual spring all day, and by evening, Lu Yu could look up to see the stars filling the sky. Later, Lu Yu thought about what his master had said before. The Rashomon clan comes from other planets, wondering how many of these numerous stars nurtured life. Then Lu Yu thought of something odd and asked, "Master, there's nothing blocking the sky. What if someone flies by and sees us?" The Ling Luo Peak Master's lazy, vague voice answered, "Don't worry, no one can see us." Lu Yu raised an eyebrow. Although he didn't know how his master managed that, since she said so, it must be true. Lu Yu didn't think about it anymore. They soaked until the next morning when the sun rose, and the distant horizon was rosy with clouds filled with vitality. Lu Yu heard the sound of water from the Ling Luo Peak Master's side. Her lazy voice spoke, "All right, that's about enough. If we continue soaking, the spiritual spring's effects won't improve. It needs some time to be absorbed." Hearing this, Lu Yu also stood up and dressed up, as sounds of water came from Liu Ningxuang's side as well. Then Lu Yu heard the sound of ice breaking, and Donggong Mingyue started shouting, "Wow, Liu Ningxuang, I'm going to fight you." Lu Ye. He could imagine what was happening over there. Liu Ningxuang's ghostly voice sounded, "Junior sister, if you want to be frozen again, you can try." Donggong Mingyue's voice abruptly stopped. Lu Yu walked out of the gate, and soon saw his master and senior sister walking out. After a day's nourishment in the spiritual spring, his senior sister's skin radiated like jade, her long black hair dampened with moisture, her cool and exquisite face as radiant as a lotus rising from water, strikingly beautiful. His master was equally beautiful. Her lazy face looked as though she might fall asleep at any moment. However, her hair, soaked in the spiritual spring, was no longer as unkempt as when she just woke up, appearing much smoother. Her naturally curly hair, like black waves resembling clouds of ink, added a touch of sexiness. Lu Yi, looking at his two incredibly beautiful master and senior sister, couldn't help but be dazzled. These beauties were literally shining. Soon Donggong Mingyue came out. Her skin was milky white like jade, her cute face plump with baby fat. However, her expression was very discontent, her big eyes bulging with anger, and her body still emitting cold air. This guy was probably suppressed in the ice all night long. Donggong Mingyue, hands on her hips, looked furiously at Liu Ningxuang and said, "Stinky senior sister, just you wait. One day I will defeat you and you will regret it." Liu Ningxuang's cool face remained calm as she glanced at her. "You can say that after you've broken through to the divinity transformation realm." Donggong Mingyue's face contorted immediately. The Ling Luo Peak Master yawned, stretched lazily and said, "All right, you guys go cultivate. I'm going to sleep. If you want to take baths in the future, just come over on your own." Lu Yi and the others bid farewell to the Ling Luo Peak Master, and then the three left. The three each returned to their own cave mansions. Lu Yi went back to the cultivation room, thought for a moment, and planned to focus on completing the task of deducing arrays. After all, deducing arrays could reward a piece of array Tao enlightenment, from Qi cultivation array to unification array, and at this stage, deducing them should not be a problem for Lu Yi. If he absorbed the task reward of array Tao enlightenment, he might even deduce the Great Mahayana array, and then he could complete the task of deducing the Great Mahayana formation. By then, he would receive a fragment of the innate array pattern, which should be a decent task reward. Post now, edit later tilde. Chapter 345, 161, Immortal Body Anomaly. Chapter 345, Chapter 161, Immortal Body Anomaly. However, before that, Lu Yi had to first set up the sect protection array for his own sect and receive the task reward. After all, creating the sect protection array for his own sect would reward the Azure Dragon killing array. In doing so, the 4 symbols killing array would be complete. A great Mahayana array of the Mahayana realm, if mastered by himself, would greatly aid in deducing his own great Mahayana array. The next morning, Lu Yi went to White Cloud Peak to find Master Wu Qingfeng. Master Wu Qingfeng was spirited, with the strong members from Black Jade Peak and Iron Heart sect joining the White Cloud sect. The sect's power would further increase. As the sect leader, it was natural for Wu Qingfeng to be in a good mood. Upon seeing Lu Yi, he greeted him with a smile. "Nephew Lu, what brings you here?" Lu Yi replied with a smile, "I've come to set up the sect's protective array." Hearing this, Wu Qingfeng smacked his forehead, laughing. "I've been so busy lately, I completely forgot about that. I'll take you to the array core's location." Saying so, Wu Qingfeng led Lu Yi deep into the mountains of the White Cloud sect, to a small valley where a white stele stood guarded by an old man with white hair, sitting cross-legged. This old man, Lu Yi had seen before. He was Uncle Master Liu Zhenyang, who had broken through to the cave void realm. When Liu Zhenyang saw Wu Qingfeng bringing Lu Yi over, he stood up with a smiling face. "Ah, so it's Kiddo Lu who has come." Liu Zhenyang had managed to break through to the cave void realm, largely thanks to Lu Yi. If it hadn't been for the Tao light phenomenon that Lu Yi had conjured during his own breakthrough, Liu Zhenyang might not have grasped the conception necessary to reach the cave void realm. Wu Qingfeng laughed. "Uncle Master, Nephew Lu is here to construct the sect's protective array." Upon hearing this, Liu Zhenyang nodded slightly. "I see, Kiddo Lu, go ahead and do your work, I'll be your protector." Lu Yi responded with a smile. "Thank you, Uncle Master." Afterward, Wu Qingfeng left as he had many tasks during these days. Even though the strong cultivators from Black Jade Peak and Iron Heart sect had left to bring other strong members to the sect, and were not currently in the sect, as the sect leader, Wu Qingfeng also needed to consider how to settle these strong cultivators once they joined. Meanwhile, Lu Yi began constructing the sect's protective array. Lu Yi's prowess in the array Tao realm had grown much stronger compared to the time he drew arrays in the 10,000 Flowers sect. He took out 9 heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the unification realm, and started inscribing all the arrays he had learned. The mysterious aura surged, with densely packed array patterns so small that they were almost invisible to the human eye, all imprinted on the heavenly materials and earthly treasures. In the White Cloud sect, with his master watching over, Lu Yi didn't have to bother with setting up arrays for concealing qi, which made things much easier. As Lu Yi inscribed the array patterns, various anomalies appeared. In the sky, there was the roaring of the white tiger, the screeching of the vermilion bird, the trekking of the black tortoise, the spreading of the star river, the flowing of ice mist, and the simultaneous ringing of the heavenly sword. A terrifying pressure spread out, and all the cultivators of the White Cloud sect sensed the change, looking up into the sky in utter amazement and buzzing with discussion. At the summit of Ling Luo Peak, the Ling Luo Peak master, who had been sleeping, was woken up and came out of his bamboo house. Looking at the anomalies in the sky, he scratched his head, complaining, "That kid, disturbing people's dreams. But his array realm has actually reached such a level." Even thousands of kilometers away from the White Cloud sect, cultivators heard the tigers roar and the swords clang from inside the sect, looking towards the direction of the White Cloud sect with shock and uncertainty. The anomaly continued for several hours before gradually fading away. By this time, the protective array of the White Cloud sect had transformed. The white steel had disappeared, leaving only blocks of heavenly materials and earthly treasures scattered like stars in the sky, shimmering with divine light. Liu Zhenyang, who had been watching Lu Yi set up the array, couldn't help but exclaim, "Kiddo Lu, truly a reincarnated array immortal." Lu Yi humbly smiled. "Uncle Master flatters me. The array patterns have been set up, I will take my leave now." Liu Zhenyang nodded with a warm smile. Go ahead, focus on your cultivation." Lu Yi left the array core's location and returned to his cave mansion. Task: construct a protective array for the White Cloud sect, completed. Reward: Array Realm Level Up, Unification Realm Array Azure Dragon Killing Array. Accept reward, yes, no. Lu Yi looked at the panel, feeling very happy. The Azure Dragon Killing Array was now his. Lu Yi accepted the task, absorbed insights from the Array Tao realm, and after an anomaly, Lu Yi felt his mastery of the Array realm had further improved. Afterward, Lu Yi settled down and began to focus on cultivating. He enhanced his cultivation base at night, practiced arts during the day, understood arrays, and also practiced artifact refining, spirit food cooking, and spiritual wine brewing, etc. In his leisure time, Lu Yi used the power of nature and spirit milk to nurture the Rashomon ancient tree, as well as the primordial Yang tree and the Yuan Yin tree outside. When tired from cultivating, he would take a bath at the peak, leading a peaceful and leisurely life. During the day, Lu Yi focused his main effort on deducing arrays, in order to complete the task of deducting arrays. With Lu Yi's level in the array Tao realm, deducing lower-level arrays was naturally effortless. He spent only a few minutes and deduced arrays for the Qi Cultivation realm, Foundation Establishment realm, and Golden Core realm. However, beyond the Golden Core realm, the difficulty of deduction increased. Lu Yi spent 2 hours to deduce an array for the Nascent Soul realm, then 3 days to deduce an array for the Divinity Transformation realm. Afterward, Lu Yi spent a whole month to successfully deduce an array for the Cave Void realm, which was a remarkably difficult task. Chapter 346, 161, Immortal Body Anomaly 2. Chapter 346, Chapter 161, Immortal Body Anomaly /2. The complexity of such a great array in the Cave Void realm was astounding. Lu Yi didn't even know how long it would take to extrapolate the unification array. He estimated at least a year. Lu Yi couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Extrapolating great arrays was indeed an exceedingly difficult task. However, apart from extrapolating great arrays, Lu Yi also began to practice other formations, including the 4 symbols kill formation which he had acquired earlier. During this month, the White Cloud sect had become much busier than before. When Lu Yi had some free time to run errands for his master or visit the workshop, he could see some new faces, and they were quite strong. They were powerhouses from the Black Jade Peak and the Iron Heart sect. Over the month, cultivators from the Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak had arrived at the White Cloud sect in succession. Just 2 days ago, nearly all the strong cultivators from the Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak had arrived at the White Cloud sect, which then issued an announcement that the Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak had joined the White Cloud sect and dissolved their former alliances. Upon hearing this, the whole of Qingzhou was in an uproar. That very day, powerful forces broke through the sect protection array of the 2 sects to find that almost all cultivators had left, and even the treasure vaults were emptied, not a single hair left behind. This dumbfounded many external forces who had been looking to take advantage, and it was said that the angry roars of the powerhouses from the 3 sects of Yellow Mountain sect echoed across the region. 3 more months passed, and on this night, Lu Yi was cultivating. Suddenly, he felt an extremely mysterious aura emanating from the horizon, an aura so mysterious yet so familiar to him. It was Yunzai's aura. Startled, Lu Yi vanished from the spot and appeared in the sky, looking in the direction of the 10,000 Flowers sect, his face etched with astonishment. Not just Lu Yi, but many cultivators also soared into the skies, similarly alarmed. Even his own master, senior sister, and junior sister flew out to look toward the 10,000 Flowers sect. In the far depths of the night sky, streams of 9-colored light soared into the heavens, merging with the myriad stars and connecting with outer space. The mysterious aura circulated, and Lu Yi thought he could smell a hint of floral fragrance. Lu Yi was extremely shocked. The distance between the 10,000 Flowers sect and the White Cloud sect was considerable, and yet such a grand anomaly was perceptible even at the White Cloud sect. What had happened at Yunzai's side? At that moment, the Ling Luo Peak Master with a lazy beauty on her face showed a trace of surprise and spoke, "An immortal body. That's the direction of the 10,000 Flowers sect, right? It seems little Yunzai has encountered a great opportunity. I didn't expect her to elevate her 10,000 Flowers spiritual body to the level of an immortal body. Her future is boundless." Hearing this, Lu Yi was somewhat astonished. An immortal body. Yunzai managed to condense an immortal body. Then Lu Yi thought of the 9-colored bellflowers he had given to Yunzai before he left, which was a heavenly material and earthly treasure close to an immortal treasure, already highly compatible with Yunzai. After absorbing the 9-colored bellflowers, Yunzai had actually broken through to an immortal body. Having the 10,000 Flowers spiritual body, an innate spiritual body, was already a testament to immense talent. Now that she had broken through to an immortal body, she was likely even more formidable. Such a grand anomaly was evidence of that. Lu Yi felt happy for Yunzai. Moreover, he was happy for himself too. Yunzai's strength would probably increase greatly, and when the time came for their practice task and other various tasks, the rewards would likely increase significantly. Wonderful! While Lu Yi was caught in his joy, Donggong Mingyue and Liu Ningxuang beside him were shaken. Even Liu Ningxuang, with her usually cold face, showed a look of astonishment. Donggong Mingyue even exclaimed in shock, "An immortal body! That woman Yunzai has actually condensed an immortal body. Doesn't that mean her talent surpasses mine now?" Disbelief was written all over Donggong Mingyue's beautiful face. How can this be? We were supposed to be of similar talent. I was planning to work hard at my cultivation to surpass her. Donggong Mingyue was dumbfounded. Liu Ningxuang also frowned, her cold and beautiful face showing a trace of seriousness. An immortal body. Liu Ningxuang herself was extremely talented and had a higher cultivation base than Yunzai. Now that Yunzai had undergone a transformation into an immortal body, giving her a complete metamorphosis, it elevated the pressure on Liu Ningxuang significantly. The Ling Luo Peak Master spoke with a hint of regret. "It's a pity little Yunzai isn't my disciple." At that moment Lu Yi thought of something, and his expression subtly changed. Such a significant anomaly, it might attract many strong cultivators, right? The Ling Luo Peak Master nodded as if it were only natural. Of course, the fluctuation from the immortal body wasn't concealed. I'm afraid every tribulation crossing practitioner in Tiananmen has taken note of this. Many are likely to set their sights on little Yunzai. Hearing this, Lu Yi furrowed his brows and spoke earnestly. "Master, I would like to ask a favor of you." The Ling Luo Peak Master yawned, looking at Lu Yi with a smile. "You want me to take action and defend the 10,000 Flowers sect?" Lu Yi nodded and said, "The great array I arranged for the 10,000 Flowers sect can only withstand some great Mahayana cultivators. Against tribulation crossing practitioners, it is powerless. Only with Master's intervention can they be stopped." The Ling Luo Peak Master seemed to think of something and said teasingly, "You lad, you really do care a lot about little Yunzai." Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue watched Lu Yi with mildly peculiar expressions, but they didn't say much. Given the gravity of the matter, even Donggong Mingyue, who usually quarreled with Yunzai, wouldn't want anything truly harmful to happen to her. Through the incident with the spiritual spring and other matters in recent days, Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue had naturally come to realize that their own master was not as simple as she seemed. Chapter 347, 161 Immortal Body Anomaly 3. Chapter 347, Chapter 161 Immortal Body Anomaly /3. Donggong Mingyue also opened her mouth to plead, "Master, although Yunzai is shameless and utterly disgraceful, she is not actually a bad person. Please help her." Liu Ningxuang also looked toward the Ling Luo Peak Master. The Ling Luo Peak Master stretched lazily and said, "Even if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't let anything happen to the immortal body. As long as the immortal body grows normally, she will become an immortal, and not just any immortal but a remarkable one. It's good for Tiananmen and even for the entire Star River." Hearing this, Lu Yi breathed a sigh of relief, feeling secure with his master intervening. Then, thinking about what the Ling Luo Peak Master had said, Lu Yi asked with some confusion, "Why is it a good thing for the entire Star River?" The Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at Lu Yi sideways and said, "You, my boy, are weaker than a dog, yet your curiosity is heavier than a cat's." Lu Yi. He was utterly bemused. "How am I as weak as a dog?" The Ling Luo Peak Master sneered scornfully. "Some dogs possess the strength of immortals. What about you?" Lu Yi. He suddenly fell silent. Damn it, he was even weaker than a dog. Nearby, Donggong Mingyue burst into hearty laughter, clearly delighted at her senior brother's embarrassment. Liu Ningxuang glanced at Donggong Mingyue, and a hint of pity flashed in her cold eyes. "Junior sister, you're even weaker than junior brother." Upon hearing this, Donggong Mingyue's laughter stopped abruptly, and she froze. If her senior brother was comparable to a dog, and her strength was even less than his, didn't that make her even lower than a dog? Donggong Mingyue fell silent, then began to doubt her life choices. The Ling Luo Peak Master stretched lazily again and said, "You all should just focus on cultivation." With that, the Ling Luo Peak Master disappeared from the spot. Lu Yi and his two companions exchanged glances, then silently returned to their respective cave mansions to cultivate. They were somewhat hurt by their own master's words. 2 days later, breathtaking news arrived. Zhang Fan and his companions came to drink with Lu Yi, bringing him the news. 2 nights ago, 10,000 Flowers sect witnessed an incredible anomaly. According to those who saw it with their own eyes that night, images of myriad flowers swayed in the skies over 10,000 Flowers sect. Forests grew, ancient vines wrapped around, resembling an ancient forest appearing in the sky. In the center of this ancient forest, a 9-colored blossom colossal enough to cover the sun and touch the heavens emerged, its petals almost merging with the firmament, dominating the Star River. This was a grand anomaly unimaginable to many. The entire 10,000 Flowers sect territory saw it. Even the entire eastern domain sensed the disturbance. It was said that on the following morning, tribulation crossing great powers using unknown means traveled through the void. It was even rumored that tribulation crossing ancestors from the Immortal sect Holy Lands also came over. Outside the 10,000 Flowers sect, there were at least a dozen fearsome elders. According to cultivators who witnessed everything from afar, each of these elders had an extremely terrifying aura. Merely standing there, they distorted the void, and their powerful spiritual pressure even crushed the space around them. It was also heard that some great powers muttered snippets of conversation, revealing that an immortal body had emerged from 10,000 Flowers sect. All the tribulation-crossing ancestors had come for the immortal body. Everyone knew that, although Lu Yi had set up a sect protection array for the 10,000 Flowers sect, it could definitely not stop tribulation-crossing ancestors. However, to everyone's surprise, when a group of tribulation-crossing ancestors approached 10,000 Flowers sect, and one of the elders attempted to forcibly break through the sect protection array, the 10,000 Flowers sect seemed to exist in a different dimension, seemingly an illusion. Even the sect protection array was the same, untouched by any of the tribulation-crossing ancestors. This startled all the tribulation-crossing ancestors, none daring to make another move, only negotiating outside the array with Granny Hua of the 10,000 Flowers sect. It was said that each tribulation-crossing ancestor offered an extremely high price to take the immortal body away, but 10,000 Flowers sect politely refused each offer. In the end, to the shock of all cultivators after being refused, the tribulation-crossing ancestors turned and left, without any hesitation. The matter almost became an unsolved mystery, with all cultivators speculating about what had made such powerful practitioners so fearful that they didn't dare to contend further. Zhang Fan took a sip of his drink, pondering aloud. Some believe there's an immortal hidden within the 10,000 Flowers sect, possibly attracted by that day's anomaly. An immortal intervened, helping 10,000 Flowers sect through this calamity. Bai Yulong was astounded and exclaimed, "I can't believe an immortal body appeared in 10,000 Flowers sect. It must be Taoist Yunzai, right?" As Bai Yulong spoke, he looked at Lu Yi, smiling. "Junior brother Lu, you stayed inside 10,000 Flowers sect for 2 months. Don't tell me you missed such a great opportunity. This couldn't possibly be related to you, could it?" Tai Man scratched his head, somewhat in disbelief. "That's an immortal body, junior brother Lu. Even if you're incredible, it can't possibly be related to you, right?" Lu Yi smiled. "I'm not really sure. If people knew that he had helped Yunzai transform into an immortal body, then he would probably be targeted by many. Well, although he was already being targeted by many. But more trouble is less desirable than less." All three nodded. Honestly, they also didn't believe that Lu Yi could help a mortal body transform into an immortal body. However, those tribulation-crossing ancestors were also scared. Could there really be an immortal within 10,000 Flowers sect? Zhang Fan was quite shocked. Lu Yi felt odd inside. Most likely his own master had intervened, and judging from Zhang Fan's description, such means were probably related to the use of laws. Tribulation-crossing practitioners, being the closest to immortals, might have recognized the effect of the laws, which naturally caused them to retreat. This meant that 10,000 Flowers sect should be safe, and Lu Yi also felt more at ease. Well, maybe it's time to find Yunzai, see what an immortal body is like. Lu Yi pondered the matter, considering that the entire eastern domain was probably watching 10,000 Flowers sect, not the best time for a visit. Maybe later. After Yunzai transformed into an immortal body, Qingzhu gradually calmed down, and Lu Yi also returned to a peaceful life of cultivation. Another year passed, and outside the White Cloud sect, Lu Yi received a message from a disciple that an old acquaintance had come to visit. Chapter 348, 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor. Chapter 348, Chapter 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor. An old acquaintance has come to visit. Lu Yi looked at the disciple who brought the message, somewhat puzzled. The disciple looked at Lu Yi with admiration in his expression and smiled. Yes, Brother Lu, it's someone from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. The sect leader asked you to come over as well. Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. Lu Yi's eyes lit up. Could it be that the Heavenly Dragon Saint Son had arrived? In recent times, his body refining resources had not been very good, lacking some true dragon essence blood. If it really was someone from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, that would indeed be good news. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Then lead the way." Yes, the disciple led Lu Yi to the main hall of White Cloud Peak. In the main hall, Master Wu Qingfeng, Elder Ming, and a group of supreme elders were entertaining a group of cultivators. These cultivators had strong auras, and their vitality was like the sea, clearly very powerful body cultivators. Lu Yi swept his gaze over them and saw the Heavenly Dragon Saint Son, whom he had been missing. However, he noticed that the atmosphere in the main hall was somewhat solemn. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow and walked into the main hall. Upon seeing Lu Yi enter, Master Wu Qingfeng and the Supreme Elders all brightened up. Nephew Lu has arrived. The cultivators from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land naturally noticed Lu Yi entering and all looked over. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Son had a sharp glint in his eyes, staring intently at Lu Yi. Lu Yi greeted them with a smile. Sect leader, esteemed elders and seniors and fellow cultivators from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. The leader of the group from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land was a tall, blond man with an extremely powerful and terrifying aura, like an abyss, clearly a tribulation-crossing cultivator. Apart from him, there were two Mahayana realm cultivators, several young cultivators of the Cave Void realm, and one Heavenly Dragon Saint Son. It goes without saying for the great Mahayana powers, the Cave Void cultivators were all very young at their core, likely the pride of the previous generation of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. Adding the current generation's Heavenly Dragon Saint Son, one could say the lineup was incredibly strong. This made Lu Yi somewhat startled. With such a luxurious assembly, what had brought them to the White Cloud sect? As Lu Yi was wondering, the leading tribulation-crossing ancestor nodded towards him, his expression dignified as he praised. Spiritual energy like the sea, breath profound, indeed quite exceptional. Lu Yi responded with a bowed hand, "Senior flatters me." The tribulation-crossing ancestor laughed. "I had heard before that your physical body is also very strong. Now, seeing you, your vitality is like beacon smoke. I'm afraid it might even be stronger than Ao Tian." Ao Tian. Lu Yi glanced at the Heavenly Dragon Saint Son, who had a somewhat stiff expression and was clearly not pleased, and smiled. "Senior is too complimentary. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Son is a prodigy in body cultivation, with extremely powerful physical strength. Ha, such humility in a young man hardly suits a body cultivator. You sound more like a refined array repairer." The tribulation-crossing ancestor tapped Lu Yi with a chuckle. At this moment, Master Wu Qingfeng signaled to Lu Yi with his hand and said, "Nephew Lu, come here. Today, the fellow cultivators from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land are here regarding the battle with the Sea Clan." Upon hearing this, Lu Yi was taken aback, somewhat astonished, regarding the battle with the Sea Clan. The leading tribulation-crossing ancestor explained, "Now, the Sea Clan's strength is formidable. Among the Sea Clan cultivators attacking the mainland, there are far too many strong ones. The Immortal sect Holy Land of Qingzhou alone cannot withstand them. The Eastern Domain sects need to join forces. We have come to White Cloud sect today to invite your cultivators to join the battle." These words made Master Wu Qingfeng and the others show signs of worry. The sect leader looked at the Heavenly Dragon ancestor, considered for a moment, and then asked, "Senior, our White Cloud sect is of modest strength. Must we also participate in the battle?" The tribulation-crossing ancestor glanced at Wu Qingfeng and spoke calmly. "The Eastern Domain does not belong to the Immortal sect Holy Land alone. It belongs to all cultivators. Since White Cloud sect is one of the Eastern Domain sects, naturally it should also join the battle." He added slowly, "Not just your White Cloud sect, we have sent people to invite all sects to participate. Your sect is a special case, which is why I personally came here." Saying this, the tribulation-crossing ancestor looked over at Lu Yi, obviously because of him. Hearing these words, the sect leader exhaled a breath of relief, understanding that both sentimentally and rationally they must go to battle. There was no escaping it. He asked, "May I inquire, Senior, how many from our White Cloud sect are required to join the battle?" The tribulation-crossing ancestor spoke slowly. "Your White Cloud sect already has 2 cave void cultivators and is considered a sect of the cave void realm. You are required to dispatch 1 cave void cultivator, 10 divinity transformation cultivators, 30 nascent soul cultivators, and 300 golden core cultivators to the battle." Hearing this, Master Wu Qingfeng and the Supreme Elders changed their expressions slightly. "That many?" Heavenly Dragon Ancestor shook his head slowly, stating, "To be honest, this number is not a lot. You have never been to the battlefield and probably haven't seen the number of the Sea Clan cultivators. The death toll of our disciples from the various Immortal sect Holy Lands far exceeds this number. Moreover, the forces that were originally located in the combat zones but have now fallen back are required to dispatch 3 times the numbers you are. Also, by joining the battlefield, you will not be joining in vain. As long as you establish military achievements, our rewards will be very generous." Hearing this, the expressions of Master Wu Qingfeng and the others eased slightly. Master Wu Qingfeng thought of something, glanced at Lu Yi, and quickly asked, "The cultivators going into battle will be chosen by ourselves, correct?" The tribulation-crossing ancestor nodded. "Of course, that's for your sect to internally decide." Upon hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "Since Senior has personally come, naturally we have no reason to refuse," Master Wu Qingfeng said with a wry smile. The tribulation-crossing ancestor also nodded calmly. He had, of course, not expected the White Cloud sect to refuse. Chapter 349, 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor 2. Chapter 349, Chapter 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor /2. Even with a tribulation-crossing practitioner backing the White Cloud sect, they wouldn't dare overtly refuse such a request. After all, the White Cloud sect is also a sect from the Eastern Domain, and all cultivators are making efforts. The White Cloud sect cannot be so out of line as to only look out for themselves. Afterwards, he glanced at the sect leader, then at Lu Yi, and smiled. "In addition to inviting the White Cloud sect to join the battle, there is another matter." Master Wu Qingfeng appeared somewhat puzzled. "Senior, may I ask what that matter is?" "This matter also involves young friend Lu Yi." The tribulation-crossing ancestor turned to Lu Yi and said, "I heard that there was turmoil in Qingzhou not long ago, instigated by the Blood Spirit sect and the Heavenly Snake sect who sought to eliminate young friend Lu Yi. They first attempted to besiege young friend Lu Yi, which then escalated into a large-scale war. Is this true?" The statement caused slight shifts in the expressions of Lu Yi, Master Wu Qingfeng, and others. Lu Yi nodded calmly. "Indeed, that is true." The tribulation-crossing ancestor sighed and said, "Today, I wish to mediate and represent the Heavenly Snake sect to reconcile with the White Cloud sect and young friend Lu Yi." "Reconcile?" Master Wu Qingfeng was somewhat puzzled. "Senior, what do you mean by this?" "That Heavenly Snake sect was once a branch of our Heavenly Dragon Holy Land that had been scattered abroad. Not long ago, Aotian uncovered this fact, and after some discussion, we decided to reintegrate the Heavenly Snake sect into our sect. Henceforth, there will be no Heavenly Snake sect in Tiananmen, and we only hope that the White Cloud sect and young friend Lu Yi can reconcile with the disciples of the Heavenly Snake sect. Of course, since this matter arose from the Heavenly Snake sect, we will naturally mete out punishment. All their cultivators above the Golden Core will participate in this battle to contribute to the Eastern Domain until they have achieved certain military exploits before they can return. What do you think?" This, Master Wu Qingfeng and the others exchanged glances. To be honest, they had not anticipated a tribulation-crossing ancestor to be so polite in seeking reconciliation with them. Master Wu Qingfeng smiled. "Since Senior has been so courteous, what else could we say? Although it is true that there has been considerable enmity between us and the Heavenly Snake sect, after all, disciples of the Heavenly Snake sect have killed many of our White Cloud sect disciples. But now, with the Heavenly Snake sect suffering heavy losses, they have received their punishment. With the Senior personally mediating, we naturally have no reason to refuse." Master Wu Qingfeng turned to Lu Yi. "Nephew Lu, what do you think?" After all, Lu Yi was the person involved in the incident previously. Lu Yi was indifferent. "I have no problem with it. With his current strength, Even if the entire heavenly snake sect attacked him together, they would pose no threat. If he did not give face to the heavenly dragon Holy Land now, he would only make an enemy of a Holy Land-level power, which was needless. Then Lu Yi thought of something and his expression turned serious. However, I have a condition. The tribulation-crossing ancestor looked at Lu Yi. What condition? A senior brother of mine, whom I was on good terms with, was harmed by disciples of the heavenly snake sect during the Great War. I wish to avenge that senior brother. Thinking of Li Yun, who had been slain by a disciple of the heavenly snake sect, Lu Yi hoped to bring some solace to his spirit in heaven. On hearing this, the tribulation-crossing ancestor frowned and fell silent. The powerhouses of the heavenly dragon Holy Land also frowned, their complexions turning rather unsightly. Even Master Wu Qingfeng and the others showed a subtle change in expression, each of them making eye signals to Lu Yi. The tribulation-crossing ancestor was here to mediate, and this young man was still intent on revenge. And the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's eyes widened as he shouted, Lu Yi, don't you dare go too far. It's already a great honor for Long Ming Ancestor to personally intervene on your behalf, and now you still want to kill a disciple of the heavenly snake sect. Lu Yi looked at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and smiled. Brother Ao Tian, it has been quite a while since we last sparred. How about we spar again? The voice of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun suddenly ceased, and his face grew pale. Lu Yi was capable of challenging unification great powers, and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was naturally aware of the situation. How could he fight? His eyes were wide and defiant. If you dare, don't use spiritual artifacts or a Rei Tao. Lu Yi fell silent for a moment. This fellow was rather adorably foolish. The powerhouse beside him from the heavenly dragon Holy Land also looked somewhat embarrassed. Long Ming Ancestor glared at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Enough! If you were on the battlefield, would your enemies agree to your demands and limit their own strength? After speaking, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun regretted his words, and upon hearing the heavenly dragon Ancestor's comment, he was rendered speechless. Long Ming Ancestor looked deeply at Lu Yi and then said, I can agree to your request. At this statement, all present gaped in astonishment. The tribulation-crossing ancestor, he actually agreed to Lu Yi's condition. Master Wu, Qingfeng, and others felt as though they were in a dream. This was a tribulation-crossing realm great power, the mightiest existence beneath an immortal, an invincible presence throughout the entire Tiananmen. Such an existence actually agreed to Lu Yi's request. Even the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land were visibly shocked. Long Ming Ancestor smiled and said, However, you must also agree to a condition of mine in return. Lu Yi was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and asked, What is that senior wishes to propose? As long as I am able, I will certainly agree. Long Ming Ancestor slowly stated, Use solely your body cultivation realm to fight a battle with Ao Tian. I'm very curious to see how strong your body refining realm truly is. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi felt somewhat bemused. That's it. Against someone like Long Yashin, he could fight 100 with just one hand. Initially, Lu Yi thought Long Ming Ancestor would impose harsh conditions, but it seemed that was not the case. As Lu Yi breathed a sigh of relief, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's eyes lit up with fighting spirit as he stared intently at Lu Yi, brimming with a provocative gaze. He said coldly, If it's only a contest of body cultivation realm, I, Long Yashin, have never been inferior to anyone in my life. Lu Yi, you surely won't be my match. Today, I will let you taste the bitterness of defeat. Chapter 350, 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor 3. Chapter 350, Chapter 162, Negotiating Terms with the Tribulation-Crossing Ancestor /3. Lu Yi smiled. Brother Ao Tian, you've said that before, but the outcome seemed different from what you said. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun stiffened. His eyes were red with anger as he said coldly, This time, I will definitely win. As he spoke, strands of a terrifying aura escaped from the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's body. A surge of mighty blood qi emerged, and true dragon Tao patterns appeared on the surface of his body, transforming into dragon-scale armor. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun stood like a young dragon, exuding a terrifying and unparalleled oppressive force. Wu Qingfeng and other strong figures all had changing expressions. Even Elder Ming's face was extremely grave. Despite only being in the divinity transformation realm, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun made Elder Ming, who was of the cave void realm, feel somewhat difficult to contend with. Lu Yi smiled. If that's the case, let's go to the sky. Let's not destroy our sect's property, otherwise I will make you pay for it. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun's face darkened, annoyed. Was Lu Yi implying he couldn't afford to compensate? Lu Yi transformed into a streak of light, vanishing from the spot, and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun followed him with a silent grunt. In the sky, Lu Yi stood in midair, the gang wind blowing, his black hair fluttering, his magic robe dancing around him. With a smile on his handsome face, he looked at the approaching heavenly dragon Saint Sun and muttered to himself, I want to defeat the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Task: defeat the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Reward: 100 drops of true dragon essence blood. Accept task, yes, no. Lu Yi was startled, then a happy smile crossed his face. The task's reward for defeating the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, who had just broken through to the divinity transformation realm, was quite rich indeed, amounting to a full 100 drops of true dragon essence blood. This was enough for him to cultivate for a while, and take the strength of his physical body to another level. Seeing Lu Yi's smiling face, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's expression was icy. I hope you can still smile later. Lu Yi smiled. Whether I can still smile, you'll find out soon enough. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun snorted coldly and took a step forward like a golden young dragon, rushing at Lu Yi. His right hand reached out, intertwining with true dragon Tao patterns, transforming his hand into a colossal dragon claw. The dragon claw brought with it a terribly powerful fluctuation, distorting and shaking the surrounding space as it descended toward Lu Yi. Spiritual power surged, engulfing the entire White Cloud sect and startling all the cultivators inside, who rushed out. What's going on? Are we being attacked by enemies? Impossible, right? Brother Lu has set up such a powerful sect protection array within our sect, who would be so fearless to dare attack White Cloud sect. Look in the sky, that is. It was only then that the cultivators noticed Lu Yi and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun above them. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun's dragon claw caused all the cultivators' hearts to tremble. Such an attack, even a divinity transformation great power acting as supreme elder would not be able to withstand a single blow, let alone the others. However, the attack that seemed cataclysmic to the congregation of cultivators, as it neared Lu Yi, was effortlessly caught by him with a mere raise of the hand. Boom! Lu Yi's slender palm collided with the massive dragon claw, creating a storm of energy waves that distorted and surged through space, spreading in all directions. Lu Yi's body still stood suspended in the air, without so much as a flinch. This made all the cultivators widen their eyes in disbelief. Especially the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, who were all utterly astonished. How is this possible? Tian has already been able to condense complete true dragon Tao patterns, and his combat power is comparable to a practitioner of the cave void realm. The dragon claw hand is his most proud technique. How can it possibly not shake Lu Yi in the slightest? An elder from the heavenly dragon Holy Land exclaimed incredulously. I've heard before that Lu Yi's physical body is extremely strong and that his body cultivation realm is not low. It seems it's true. His bodily strength might even be stronger than Tian's. Another great Mahayana voiced with a frown. But Tian has cultivated the heavenly dragon 9 transformations immortal scripture. Where did Lu Yi's heritage come from? How could it possibly match an immortal scripture? The crowd was abuzz with discussion. Long Ming Ancestor calmly watched Lu Yi and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Although his expression was serene, his eyes also flickered with surprise as he saw the thunder pattern slowly emerging on Lu Yi's skin and said, Lu Yi, my friend, your body refining technique may not match the heavenly dragon 9 transformations, but your mastery of it is far too high, surpassing Tian's grasp of his technique by far. How can it be so profound? This technique is as if it were tailor-made for Lu Yi, my friend. As a tribulation-crossing practitioner, Long Ming Ancestor naturally had exceptional vision and immediately perceived a part of the origins of the immortal thunder dragon skill. A light flashed in Long Ming Ancestor's mind, considering a possibility, his face full of disbelief. Could it be? No, that's impossible. Long Ming Ancestor shook his head, murmuring to himself in a low voice. Ancestor, what did you say is impossible? A great Mahayana asked Long Ming Ancestor. Long Ming Ancestor, staring intently at Lu Yi, who was calmly standing with thunder patterns gathering around him, said with disbelief, the body refining technique Lu Yi, my friend, is practicing. It's as if it were tailor-made for him, as if he created the technique himself. What? All the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land widened their eyes and cried out in shock. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Although Lu Yi is extremely strong and has brilliant natural talent, he is only in the divinity transformation realm. How could he possibly create such a technique? Indeed, even if this technique is not as good as our Heavenly Dragon Holy Land's Heavenly Dragon 9 transformations, it is still not something a regular body refining technique can compare to, definitely not inferior to a body cultivation technique of the unification realm. How could it be that a divinity transformation cultivator created it on his own? One after another, the great Mahayana and the geniuses of the cave void realm expressed their disbelief, though their vision was admittedly not as keen as that of Long Ming Ancestor. If it really were as Long Ming Ancestor had suggested, it would be incredibly shocking. To create a body-refining technique of at least unification realm level while in the divinity transformation realm, what kind of concept was that? To say he was the reincarnation of an immortal king, proving the Tao with his physical body, would not be an overstatement. I can't believe it. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun saw his prized technique effortlessly blocked by Lu Yi with one hand and roared in shock and rage. His eyes filled with anger, he shouted, "Heavenly dragon transformation!" As the true dragon Tao pattern flowed, the body of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun emitted crackling sounds. His stature soared, reaching over 3 meters in height, and a terrible aura seeped from his body. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun had used his trump card, becoming even more powerful. Lu Yi smiled faintly as true dragon Tao patterns circulated around his body, even clearer and more mysterious than those around the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. What? True dragon Tao patterns? All the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, including Long Ming Ancestor, widened their eyes in shock and cried out. Chapter 351, 163, A Hasty 6 Years. Chapter 351, Chapter 163, A Hasty 6 Years. Lu Yi has actually mastered the true dragon Tao pattern. How is this possible? The true dragon Tao pattern is a naturally occurring Tao pattern on a true dragon, representing the immense power of the immortal level. Only by the protection of our master have we in the heavenly dragon Holy Land been fortunate enough to witness the true dragon Tao pattern and to comprehend it. How could he have seen it? Could it be that Lu Yi has also seen a true dragon somewhere? The cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land were incredibly shocked. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun, who faced Lu Yi, was even more astonished, his eyes wide open as he stared fixedly at the true dragon Tao pattern flickering on Lu Yi's body, filled with disbelief. How have you managed to grasp the true dragon Tao pattern? Lu Yi smiled faintly. A fortunate coincidence, I saw a true dragon illusion and memorized the pattern. Heavenly dragon Saint Sun. He shouted, I don't believe it. I study the true dragon Tao pattern every day, and my comprehension isn't as good as your fleeting glimpse. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun felt his mentality beginning to collapse, angrily shouting again and again, as his palm pressed down towards Lu Yi. It was the dragon claw hand again, and this time's dragon claw hand was much more powerful than before. The fearsome gang wind swept past, grinding the peaks of distant mountains. Lu Yi remained calm, raising his hand to block the dragon claw. Amidst the roaring sounds, Lu Yi didn't budge an inch, while the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's face turned red with effort, exerting all his strength but still unable to move Lu Yi at all. This made the heavenly dragon Saint Sun unable to believe it. Impossible. Bloodshot appeared in his eyes, and around him formed true dragon illusions. The next moment, his complexion turned pale as his aura increased at an unbelievable rate. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows, sensing that something wasn't quite right with the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's condition. His aura was increasing as if he was burning his origin, which for a body cultivator is very hard to recover. Could it be that I've broken his spirit? Lu Yi felt odd inside, and as he took a step forward, the next moment, a punch landed on the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's abdomen. Boom! The force of the punch penetrated his body, dispersing the clouds within 100 kilometers, leaving the sky a clear blue. After such a heavy blow, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun coughed up blood on the spot and was flung backward, his internal energy in chaos. With one punch, Lu Yi had scattered the burning origin. Lu Yi said with a smile, Brother Aotian, we were just sparring, why go to such lengths? Below was a tribulation crossing ancestor from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, and Lu Yi was genuinely worried that if the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was seriously hurt in his zeal, the big shot below might take it out on him. Although with the protection of his master, one less problem was preferable to one more, and Lu Yi was not someone who liked trouble. At this point, the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land also noticed this, and the Long Ming ancestor came to the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's side, his expression changing slightly as he reached out to check his internal state. Seeing that the Saint Sun's origin loss was minimal, he breathed a sigh of relief. The Long Ming ancestor shouted sternly, "Ao Tian, you've disappointed me greatly. Do you not realize how precious the true dragon blood is, yet you're willing to waste it like this?" The heavenly dragon Saint Sun looked dejected, entirely different from his battle-ready demeanor of the past. If he had lost to Lu Yi in any other domain, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun might have found excuses, but being defeated in body refinement, which was his specialty, had shaken his conviction. Seeing the dejected look of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, the Long Ming ancestor slightly frowned, unsure what to say at that moment. He somewhat regretted testing Lu Yi's physical strength. Lu Yi's achievement in the way of body cultivation far exceeded Long Ming ancestors' expectations. Now his own Saint Heir was nearly crippled by Lu Yi. Lu Yi, watching the downcast heavenly dragon Saint Sun, also got a little panicked. If the will of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun is truly broken, and he can no longer become stronger, then where will I get my body cultivation rewards? No, absolutely not. Lu Yi coughed dryly, then said, "Brother Ao Tian, it's just one failure, why take it to heart? That's not like you. I'm still waiting for you to challenge me again." "Brother, don't be like this, cheer up," Lu Yi shouted inwardly, looking at the dispirited heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Just at the divinity transformation realm, a single defeat against the heavenly dragon Saint Sun meant 100 drops of true dragon essence blood. But what about when he breaks through to the cave void realm? Or reaches unification, Mahayana, or even the tribulation transcendence realm? If the heavenly dragon Saint Sun were truly ruined, Lu Yi felt it would be a huge loss. If he had only known, he would have held back a little more. Regret filled Lu Yi's heart. Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's body trembled slightly as he looked up at Lu Yi with a complex expression, a bit of self-mockery in his voice. "Lu Yi, spare me your pretenses of kindness. With your strength so formidable, why bother to spar with me? I'm probably no match for you at all." Lu Yi immediately became serious and replied, "That's not how you should see it. As the saying goes, among any trio of travelers, one surely is a teacher. Even if your strength is not equal to mine, Brother Ao Tian, you have your own advantages that I lack. Many insights I've gained from my true dragon Tao pattern improved during our sparring. I've gained a lot from fighting you, and you are truly a worthy opponent to me. If you give up now, that would be very disappointing to me. If you give up like this, what about my task rewards?" Lu Yi looked very sincere, afraid that the heavenly dragon Saint Sun wouldn't believe him. Hearing Lu Yi's words, not just the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, but also the nearby Long Ming ancestor was taken aback. Looking at Lu Yi with his white garments fluttering and his ethereal demeanor, the Long Ming ancestor's face revealed a slight change before he praised. "Among any trio of travelers, one surely is a teacher. Even before becoming an immortal, you have an immortal's ambition. Lu Yi, my young friend, truly is one favored by the Tao." Chapter 352, 163, The Rush of 6 Years 2. Chapter 352, Chapter 163, The Rush of 6 Years /2. Long Ming ancestor looked at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and gently patted his shoulder. "Losing to Lu Yi, Ao Tian, is not an injustice for you." The expression of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun also improved a bit. His eyes gradually regained brightness, and he looked at Lu Yi and said, "Lu Yi, do you really think I am worthy of battling you?" Lu Yi nodded seriously. "It is indeed true. If there is spare time, Brother Ao Tian might as well come to White Cloud Sect to spar with me often. I would greatly welcome it." Hearing this, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's eyes lit up again, staring intently at Lu Yi, filled with a fighting spirit. "Lu Yi, I am going to the Sea Clan battlefield this time, and after experiencing life and death battles, I will surely undergo a great transformation. Then we shall have another battle." Seeing that the Tao heart of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun seemed to have stabilized, Lu Yi felt very relieved, nodding repeatedly with a smile on his face. "Good. You are always welcome to come find me, Brother Ao Tian." Long Ming ancestor, seeing the heavenly dragon Saint Sun recovered, also sighed in relief. Then he thought of something and looked at Lu Yi with a very complex expression. Lu Yi, is the body refining technique you created yourself? This question, Long Ming ancestor was extremely curious and had to ask. Lu Yi was startled, then smiled and said, "Indeed, every breakthrough invites heavenly thunder to temper the body, and having incidentally witnessed a true dragon illusion, I was inspired and created this body refining technique." Long Ming ancestor, heavenly dragon saint son. Both were silent. Such a powerful body refining technique was actually created by a cultivator at the divinity transformation realm. Lu Yi sighed inwardly and said, "It's a pity that this technique still falls short of the immortal scriptures of the senior's holy land. I still need to continue refining it." Long Ming ancestor, feeling his scalp numb, said stiffly, "Lu Yi, you truly have great ambition at such a young age in cultivation base to think of creating an immortal scripture. Ha, I really am old." The heavenly dragon saint's son once again realized the gap between him and Lu Yi was far greater than he had imagined. The three returned to White Cloud Peak, and the cultivators of the heavenly dragon holy land all looked at the heavenly dragon saint's son with concern. Long Ming ancestor laughed. "No worries after this battle, breaking and then standing, Ao Tian is bound to achieve new accomplishments." Long Ming ancestor was very satisfied with the current state of the heavenly dragon saint's son. Hearing this, the cultivators of the heavenly dragon holy land finally breathed a sigh of relief. Not only them, but even Master Wu Qingfeng and the other elders of White Cloud sect also breathed a sigh of relief. If the saint's son of the heavenly dragon holy land had issues at the White Cloud sect, who knew what kind of thunderous wrath the heavenly dragon holy land would unleash, and by then White Cloud sect would not be able to resist. The heavenly dragon saint's son being all right was naturally a result that made everyone happy. Long Ming ancestor pondered for a moment, looked at Lu Yi, and laughed. "People always say that Lu Yi is a genius in both sword array and dual cultivation, but little do they know that your talent in body cultivation is even more astonishing. In just the divinity transformation realm, you managed to create such a body refining technique. With your talent, if you join our Heavenly Dragon Holy Land and study the Heavenly Dragon 9 Transformations Immortal Scripture, integrating the essence of the scripture with your technique, perhaps it could accelerate the creation of your technique. What do you think, Lu Yi?" The smiles on Wu Qingfeng and other White Cloud sect elders' faces gradually disappeared. Their expressions stiffened, feeling very angry. Damn it, in their own sect to poach their sect's heavenly pride demon. Is this even human? If the opponent wasn't a tribulation-crossing ancestor, Wu Qingfeng and others might have been tempted to kill. Lu Yi smiled and tactfully refused. "Thank you for your generous love, senior, but I would still like to stay in the White Cloud sect." Long Ming ancestor, upon hearing this, sighed slightly, noticing the coldness of Wu Qingfeng and others, and chose not to speak further. If it were not for the tribulation crossing great power hidden within the White Cloud sect making Long Ming ancestor apprehensive, he might have considered forcefully taking Lu Yi away. But now, it naturally was not convenient to do so. Since Lu Yi has already made plans for himself, I will not say more. Today's matter is concluded, and when the time comes, White Cloud sect will dispatch the strong to participate in the battle. Additionally, about that murderer, I will personally go to the Heavenly Snake sect to inquire. Hearing this, Lu Yi breathed a sigh of relief and showed a slight smile. "Thank you, senior." Li Yun and he had also been drinking buddies, and Lu Yi avenging him would surely let him rest in peace. Soon after, the cultivators of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land left, and Lu Yi also bid farewell to Wu Qingfeng and others, returning to his own cave mansion to continue his cultivation. Just half a month later, Lu Yi deduced the unification array. In the sky above Ling Luo Peak, suddenly dense array patterns emerged, covering the sky, enveloping half of the White Cloud sect, with the terrifying array Tau pressure alarming the entire White Cloud sect. Within the entire White Cloud sect, only Lu Yi possessed such an array Tau realm, and everyone discussed profusely, guessing what profound array Tau realm Lu Yi was perceiving. These array patterns lasted for a day, not allowing the Ling Luo Peak Master to rest properly. After the array patterns disappeared, the Ling Luo Peak Master stormed into Lu Yi's cave mansion and flicked Lu Yi's forehead repeatedly, causing Lu Yi to cover his forehead in pain, tears almost falling. "Master, what are you doing?" Lu Yi was very dissatisfied, having done nothing and his own master had come to flick him. Was he that shameless? Lu Yi secretly noted this grievance in his little notebook, vowing that once his cultivation surpassed his master, he would definitely avenge this flick on the forehead. Chapter 353, 163, A Hasty 6 Years 3. Chapter 353, Chapter 163, A Hasty 6 Years /3. The peak master of Ling Luo was equally enraged and said, "With such a ruckus from your cultivation of array Tao, even your master couldn't rest properly. Shouldn't I be angry?" Yes, I'm wrong. It's my fault." Lu Yu was coerced into admitting fault and was full of resentment, but he had no choice but to remember this grudge for later. With a cold snort, the peak master of Ling Luo finally let Lu Yi off the hook. Lu Yi chuckled and said, "Since master has come over, why not give a lecture while we're at it?" The expression of the peak master of Ling Luo instantly stiffened. Another month passed, and Lu Yi made another breakthrough, advancing his cultivation base to the 7th layer of divinity transformation, which was no longer far from reaching the divinity transformation peak. During this time, Lu Yi occasionally drank and discussed the Tao with familiar fellow disciples, talking about events happening in the outside world, and gained a rough understanding of the situation. A few months ago, the alliance fighting against the Xi clan had begun to widely invite practitioners from the eastern region to participate in the great battle against the Xi clan. Each sect had emissaries dispatched by the alliance, and naturally, sects of varying strength sent different numbers of people to the battle. As for the loose cultivators, many were attracted to partake in the battle because of the possibility of exchanging military merits for cultivation resources. Not to mention other provinces in Qingzhou, even the reclusive 10,000 Flowers sect and cold Jade Valley were invited to join the battle. The external forces required even more cultivators to participate. The primordial Yang sect, the Qin family, and the great Mahayana ancestors from Forget River Valley, all holding grudges against Lu Yi, were all pulled into the battlefield. Originally, a great Mahayana sect called the Fiery Flame sect refused to participate and even expelled the emissary from their territory. The next day, however, a tribulation-crossing ancestor personally appeared and subdued the great Mahayana ancestor of the Fiery Flame sect with a single palm strike. He forcefully dragged all disciples of the Fiery Flame sect, including those in the Qi cultivation realm, to the battlefield, killing those who resisted outright. Such thunderous methods instilled immense fear in all sects and powers, hence no one dared to defy openly. The White Cloud sect also dispatched cultivators to join the battle. Cave Void Realm cultivators were led by Master Liu Zhenyang, and numerous divinity transformation cultivators also went because White Cloud sect had absorbed those from the Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak, thus having even more cultivators at the divinity transformation stage. Still, Master Wu Qingfeng treated everyone equally, and 1/3 of the divinity transformation cultivators from all 3 sects were sent to stabilize people's hearts and prevent any discontent from Iron Heart sect and Black Jade Peak. The divinity transformation elders originally from White Cloud sect were among those who went, including Qi Ling and a few other old men and women Lu Yi had met before. As for the nascent soul and golden core cultivators, naturally, even more of them went. Yang Fan, Bai Yulong, and Tai Man, perhaps inherently warmongers, were very excited about the rich rewards for military achievements. After discussion, the 3 decided to go to the battlefield to gain merits and gather cultivation resources. Since Jiang Fan and the others had been out gaining experience for over 10 years, coming back with mastery of certain conceptions made them quite renowned in the sect. This naturally inspired many talented disciples within White Cloud sect who were confident in their own strengths to follow their example, including Zai Tianming and Nangong Moyu, and other nascent soul prodigies who were still a distance away from reaching the divinity transformation realm. They all watched as Lu Yi advanced step by step, outpacing them, and now naturally felt a strong sense of urgency. They all thought of going to the Xi clan battlefield to obtain more resources and rapidly achieve breakthroughs into the divinity transformation realm. Many among these people were older disciples from Ling Luo Peak, with whom Lu Yi had good relationships and with whom he had sparred before. Lu Yi was naturally somewhat worried about these cultivators. He had various magic artifacts, elixirs, and heavenly materials and earthly treasures from his previous missions, many of which he did not use. He distributed some of these, including magic artifacts and even more powerful artifacts, along with various life-saving elixirs, to these fellow disciples. The battlefield was dangerous and not a place to take lightly. Lu Yi could only give them what assistance he could, in hopes of preventing another situation like with brother Li Yun. When Liu Zhenyang led a group of White Cloud sect disciples to war, the entire sect's cultivators came to see them off, including Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Donggong Mingyue, and even Master, who usually loved to sleep in, came out. Master Wu, King Feng, and others stood at the forefront, watching as the disciples from White Cloud sect disappeared over the horizon, their expressions incredibly complex. Master Wu, King Feng, sighed and said, "The battlefield against the Sea clan is extremely dangerous. It's uncertain how many members of our White Cloud sect will be able to return. We can only hope that they come back safely." Everyone was silent. All knew that the battlefield was a slaughterhouse, and life and death might be just a moment away, beyond anyone's control. Lu Yi, too, had mixed feelings, understanding that perhaps some of his fellow disciples he would never see again in this lifetime. After seeing off the departing troops, the White Cloud sect remained as calm as ever. But the chaos in Qingzhou had also calmed down. Among the external forces, the strong had mostly been pulled to the battlefield. After all, their original territory had been occupied by the Sea clan. Retreating in the face of battle was absolutely not allowed by the alliance. In the continuous defeats against the Sea clan, the alliance acted decisively, without giving more chances to the external forces. The cultivators left behind posed no significant threat to the local sects of Qingzhou, even allowing both 10,000 Flowers sect and Cold Jade Valley to lift their closed-door status. Qingzhou gradually regained peace, yet this quiet was not stable. All cultivators paid close attention to the situation on the Sea clan battlefield. The current Eastern Domain Alliance army was not weak, and if they still could not drive the Sea clan out of the mainland's Eastern Domain, perhaps next time, all cultivators would have to go and repel the Sea clan. Within White Cloud sect, Lu Yi continued to cultivate peacefully. He did not go to this round of conscription. In fact, even if Lu Yi had wanted to, Master Wu Qingfeng and others would not have let him. It was too dangerous. Even though Lu Yi's combat skills were strong enough to withstand Unification Realm cultivators, and he could escape from Great Mahayana cultivators, but the tribulation-crossing ancestors that might appear on the battlefield were still a danger hanging over his head. Lu Yi had a chance to ascend in the future, and White Cloud sect might become an immortal sect Holy Land. Naturally, Master Wu Qingfeng and other higher-ups would not allow Lu Yi to go to such a perilous place. Just like that, time flew by and 6 years had passed. Lu Yi broke through to the 10th layer of divinity transformation and posted a task to break into the 11th layer. First publish, then revise tilde. Chapter 354, 164, Seeing Jian Ruyu Again. Chapter 354, Chapter 164, Seeing Jian Ruyu Again. Break through to the 11th layer of divinity transformation. Reward 1 piece of Tao essence. Accept task, yes, no. Clearly, this was a task reward similar to the previous Taoist energy. However, Tao essence must be much more powerful than the Tao treasure Jade of the nascent soul realm. It's obviously the essence of the Tao. Lu Yi naturally accepted the task, looking forward to the task reward. Having broken through to the 10th layer of divinity transformation, Lu Yi decided to give himself a 2-day break to rest. Lu Yi left his cave mansion and headed to the locations of the primordial Yang tree and the Yuan Yin tree, using the power of nature and spirit milk to nourish the ancient trees. It must be said, with Lu Yi's cultivation of the trees with spirit milk, regardless of the cost, added with occasional stimulation from the power of nature, the primordial Yang and Yuan Yin ancient trees were growing even better than he expected. The trees were now almost 5 meters tall, with thick trunks and lush branches. Every leaf of the primordial Yang tree shimmered with golden red light, carrying the path of Yang within them, emitting an inexplicable Tao Yun. On the other hand, the Yuan Yin tree was pitch black, with every leaf swirling with strands of cold black mist, radiating the Tao Yun of the path of Yin. As the ancient trees grew, the Yin and Yang Tao Yun became much richer than before, and even started to spread, gradually radiating throughout the entire Ling Luo Peak. The fellow senior and junior brothers and sisters below all noticed the anomaly at Ling Luo Peak, and were very curious about what had happened. However, since the Ling Luo Peak Master did not like being disturbed during cultivation, not even elders dared to come up. Only Elder Wu Qingfeng and a few supreme elders noticed the anomaly here and came to investigate. Upon understanding the situation with these primordial yang and yuan yin trees, even Master Wu Qingfeng and the group of supreme elders could not help feeling envious. Such ancient trees containing Taoyuan were, quite simply, priceless treasures, yet unfortunately they were on Ling Luo Peak. However, Lu Yi mentioned that as the ancient trees grew normally, the Taoyuan kept spreading, which made Master Wu Qingfeng and the supreme elders wish they could guard the trees every day, hoping they would grow quickly. If so, the yin and yang Taoyuan would spread throughout the entire White Cloud sect, providing a great opportunity for all disciples of the sect. Lu Yi, on the other hand, maintained a calm attitude towards this. After all, he was growing an even more precious Rashomon ancient tree in his cave mansion. Decades had passed, and the Rashomon ancient tree had only grown a little taller, not yet reaching the height of a person. However, as the Rashomon ancient tree grew, the spiritual energy it exhaled became denser, and Lu Yi's cave mansion could now match the concentration of spiritual energy at the Divine Sword sect. Keep in mind that the Divine Sword sect is an immortal sect holy land, and naturally, a cave heaven-blessed land. This was still with the Rashomon ancient tree not yet fully grown. If it were, the concentration of spiritual energy would probably be even higher. After nourishing the primordial yang and yuan yin trees, Lu Yi went to the peak's summit for a bath. The senior sisters and junior sisters were all in closed-door cultivation, and the master, needless to say, was basically sleeping every day. Lu Yi suspected the master's cultivation technique required sleep for cultivation. Soaking alone at the top of Ling Luo Peak, Lu Yi couldn't hear the sound of water from the neighboring rooms and felt that something was missing. After soaking all night, Lu Yi felt refreshed, and he came down from the mountain to visit the workshop. Whenever Lu Yi had free time, he would always visit the workshop for a stroll. After all, cultivation is arduous, and it's all too peaceful spending every day in seclusion alone. One might become reclusive and distant from others. Walking among the disciples in the workshop, Lu Yi felt a sense of humanity. This gave him the feeling that he was a human being and brought more warmth into his life. Of course, Lu Yi also paid close attention to the warfare against the Xi clan, since the Xi clan was now not far from Qingzhou. If the battle continued to draw near, the flames of war would eventually reach Qingzhou. By then, as the front line, Qingzhou, and the White Cloud sect would certainly not remain unaffected. Lu Yi could make preparations in advance. Fortunately, after the Eastern Domain Alliance army began to recruit cultivators widely to resist the Xi clan, the number of powerful warriors in the alliance surged. This successfully held back the Xi clan's offensive. For 6 years, the battlefield remained stable, and it had not advanced further inland. Lu Yi sat in the Yulan pavilion, drinking. There were many cultivators around him, yet no one looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi had used the 1000 transformation skill, altering his appearance to that of an unremarkable golden core disciple. Have you heard? After the heavenly dragon Saint Sun came out of seclusion, he's made tremendous progress. He even slaughtered 6 cave void cultivators of the Xi clan, and even a unification great power pursued him, but in the end he escaped. Hiss, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun has grown stronger again. He's been getting stronger so quickly these days. It must be due to the stimulation from Brother Lu. Think about it, 6 years ago during that astonishing battle, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's pressure was terrifying, like a true dragon entering the world. Yet, in the face of Brother Lu, he had no power to fight back at all. It's only because of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's tenacious nature that he wasn't crushed by the defeat. Anyone else would probably be stricken down by such a blow. Yes, after all, he was brave enough to make a move in front of Brother Lu, so his talent is certainly extraordinary. Our Brother Lu is like a celestial being. Perhaps after some more time, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun will break through to the cave void realm, right? That should be the case. Feng Bumming from the Emperor Sword sect also went to the battlefield half a year ago, and it's said that his strength has advanced greatly, cultivating the Emperor Sword scripture to a very profound level. With the Emperor Sword intent, he made the Xi clan bow. It's rumored he alone faced tens of cultivators in the divinity transformation realm, managing to slaughter them all. He even killed a cave void realm cultivator from the Xi clan. Chapter 355, 164 Seeing Jian Ruyu Again 2. Chapter 355, Chapter 164 Seeing Jian Ruyu Again /2. Wang Kaifeng from the Divine Sword sect is also quite formidable. It is said that he has cultivated the Divine Sword scripture to a profound level, and even mastered the killing secret technique Divine Sword Heaven Suppressing Technique. With a single strike, he pinned down a 6th level of Cave Void Sea Clan cultivator dead. There were quite a few witnesses to this scene. The Tei Saint Son has already entered the path of arrays, which I think makes him even stronger. You all must remember the battle at White Moon Valley 3 months ago, right? If not for the Tei Saint Son having laid out a peerless great array beforehand, relying solely on the human cultivators present at that time, it's uncertain if they could have withstood so many Sea Clan. In that battle, the Tei Saint Son's Tei and Hua Sheng formation actually trapped a Sea Clan commander who was close to reaching the unification realm, said one person. The other White Cloud sect disciples nodded in agreement and exclaimed, "Yes, an array repairer on such a battlefield is simply a slaughter machine. I heard that the Tei Saint Son has already made it onto the Sea Clan's kill list, and in terms of ranking, he far surpasses the other heavenly talents of the Eastern Domain and even approaches the senior cultivators. In that case, Brother Lu, who is also an Array Tao practitioner, with such a fearsome effectiveness as the Tei Saint Son, if he were to go, he might even have a chance to slay a Sea Clan's unification great power, wouldn't he?" A White Cloud sect disciple's eyes sparkled as he spoke. "Yes, there are many heavenly talents in the Eastern Domain, as numerous as the stars in the sky, and perhaps a few of these are as bright as the full moon, but compared to Brother Lu, they all fall short by a lot. Brother Lu's brilliance is like the sun, fully capable of completely overshadowing the light of other heavenly prideful demons," another White Cloud sect disciple said excitedly, full of admiration for Lu Yi. The nearby disciples also nodded vigorously in agreement. These disciples were all at the Foundation establishment realm and would occasionally come to Yulan Pavilion to improve their meals. They had all joined the inner sect in recent years, and according to seniority, they were Lu Yi's junior brothers. Some were even heavenly talents in their own right, fully qualified to join even more powerful sects, but they had come for the reputation of Lu Yi. Lu Yi's performance over the years, in the eyes of the youth throughout the Eastern Domain, was like a legend, and countless young hotshots looked up to Lu Yi as their idol. Unfortunately, the sect leaders definitely don't want Brother Lu to take such risks, a disciple lamented with some regret. Yes, that place is far too dangerous after all, and heavenly talents are more likely to be targeted. Didn't Tei Holy Land's Lin Tianxing fall in battle? What a pity, a cultivator said. At these words, a smile froze on Lu Yi's face, revealing his astonishment. Lin Tianxing, Lu Yi remembered him. At that time in the ruins of Immortal Sword Sect's legacy, he had gone to the final ancient hall together with the Tei Saint Son and others. Lin Tianxing should belong to the previous generation of talents, a man with a gentle smile, very kind and amiable. Lu Yi had a very good impression of him. To think that he had actually fallen in battle. Lu Yi felt complicated and a bit melancholy. Life was so unpredictable. Indeed, Lin Tianxing's talent was also extremely high. Although he was slightly below the Tei Saint Son, he was not far from reaching the unification realm now, and within the Tei Holy Land he was an extraordinary talent. Perhaps he could have become one of the great Mahayana elders of the Tei Holy Land, and there was a glimmer of hope he could break through to become a tribulation-crossing ancestor. "It's unexpected that he has died," a disciple said with a sigh. However, Lin Tianxing died gloriously. With his own power, he inscribed a shocking great array that exchanged his life for 2 unification great powers of the Sea Clan, holding back the Sea Clan's march towards Demon Cloud Mountain for a full 2 days. It's simply unbelievable. Indeed, those 2 days saved the lives of hundreds of thousands of cultivators and innumerable mortals, added another. The crowd sighed repeatedly. After a moment of silence, Lu Yi also sighed. Lin Tianxing was a great hero. The cultivators who were engaged in the discussion turned to look at him and echoed in agreement. "We think so too. If we had the strength, we would definitely go to the battlefield and slay the Sea Clan." "That's right, these Sea Clan are too bullish. They have their own territory in the sea yet insist on competing with us for the land." Seeing these young cultivators filled with righteous indignation, Lu Yi couldn't help but smile slightly. He raised his wine cup in the direction of the Sea Clan battlefield and sighed, a tribute to Elder Lin Tianxing. Seeing this, the other White Cloud sect disciples also raised their wine cups solemnly in that direction, uttering, "A tribute to Elder Lin Tianxing." Lu Yi then asked, "How are the disciples of our White Cloud sect doing? Has there been any news of casualties lately?" At this question, everyone shook their heads. No casualties have been reported yet, but it's unlikely to be too optimistic. However, there has been news about Brother Jiang Fan and Brother Zai Tianming, one of the disciples spoke up. The others were taken aback, looking surprised at the speaking disciple. How could news about them get out? The speaking disciple smiled and said, I also just heard it from the outside 2 days ago. Apparently, when Brother Jiang Fan and the others went on their early journey, they went to the east of the eastern domain. They were familiar with a mountainous region there, having been chased and attacked in that area before. They, along with Brother Zai Tianming, Brother Nangong Moyu, and some other talented powerhouses, laid an ambush in that region, and actually ambushed several batches of Sea Clan practitioners, including a few at the Cave Void Realm Strength. At these words, everyone's eyes widened in amazement. Ha ha ha, our brothers and sisters from the White Cloud sect really are impressive. Even if Brother Lu is not there, our White Cloud sect still has people who can stand out. The crowd was overjoyed. Hearing this news, Lu also showed a smile. It seems that his brothers and sisters are safe for now, and that is good news. Chapter 356, 164, Seeing Jian Ruyu Again 3. Chapter 356, Chapter 164, Seeing Jian Ruyu Again /3. Lu Yi listened to the news from the battlefield for a while longer. On the battlefield, it was naturally the easiest place for heroes and strong individuals to emerge, and many talented figures from the Immortal sect Holy Lands had made a name for themselves there. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, the Tei Saint Sun, and the successors of various Immortal sect Holy Lands and great sects all displayed extremely powerful strength and talents. Each one could defeat opponents who were an entire great realm above their own. There were also hidden experts in the wild lands who made their move, dominating a region. Lu Yi spent an afternoon sitting in Yulan Pavilion and then turned to leave. Having left Yulan Pavilion, Lu Yi strolled through the workshop, and as he looked at the sunset in the distance, he felt his heart stir with excitement. Many old acquaintances were shining brightly on the battlefield, making him itch to join them. Moreover, heading to the battlefield, he reckoned the task rewards would likely not be small. However, Lu Yi still suppressed such emotions, as the Eastern Domain Alliance army had currently held off the Sea Clan's offensive, and it was unlikely that there would be any immediate changes. Even with his addition, it wouldn't play a key role. He couldn't drive the Sea Clan back to the sea. Even without him, the Eastern Domain Alliance army wouldn't face defeat. Those heavenly pride demons entering the battlefield did so primarily for their own cultivation experiences. But he didn't need such experiences, as his strength had been growing at an extremely fast rate. In terms of resources, he often sparred with his senior and junior sisters and had plenty of rewards, enough for him to cultivate properly. Lu Yi shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Afterward, Lu Yi took a step and headed toward Ling Luo Peak again, planning to continue his cultivation. When Lu Yi arrived outside his cave mansion, he saw a familiar figure. It was a woman dressed in white linen, carrying a jade sword on her back, with a posture as straight as a sword. Lu Yi felt puzzled, senior sister Ruyu. The woman turned around, revealing a beautiful and heroic face. It was indeed Jian Ruyu. Seeing Lu Yi, Jian Ruyu's eyes brightened and she smiled. Junior brother, you're finally back. I've been calling outside your cave mansion for a while, but no one answered. So, you were out. Lu Yi also smiled. Yes, I went to the workshop earlier. Speaking of which, senior sister Ruyu, what brings you here? It's been a long time since we saw each other. Since the exploration of the Immortal Sword Sect ruins, Lu Yi had left the Divine Sword Sect and had not seen Jian Ruyu. Upon reflection, it had been more than 40 years, hadn't it? Lu Yi noticed that Jian Ruyu's face was now a bit softer, with some of the sharpness hidden away, her skin as clear and translucent as white jade, her figure sword-like, seemingly fused with her sword. Lu Yi was incredibly astonished to find that Jian Ruyu's aura was extremely formidable and terrifying, having even reached the cave void realm. Lu Yi felt a shock in his heart. Initially, Jian Ruyu's cultivation base should have been similar to Liu Ningxuang's. Now, Liu Ningxuang had just broken through to the Divinity Transformation 13 layer, still ways to go from the cave void realm. He hadn't expected Jian Ruyu to have broken through so quickly. With this, the one with the highest cultivation base among the younger generation was likely this woman in front of him now. Whether it was the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, Tei Saint Sun, or Wang Kaifeng and other prodigies, they were currently only at the Divinity Transformation realm. Lu Yi said in surprise, Senior Sister Ruyu, your cultivation base has actually reached the cave void level. That's really fast. Jian Ruyu was stunned for a moment, then looked at Lu Yi with equal amazement. You actually sensed it. I've used the concealing breath technique from the divine sword scripture, and you still saw through it. Junior brother, you're really something else, aren't you? Lu Yi smiled. My spiritual power is quite strong. Jian Ruyu complained. I actually wanted to surprise you, but it's no fun now. Lu Yi responded with a laugh. I was already scared. He was indeed a bit scared. Upon hearing this, Jian Ruyu finally laughed. It still has to do with you. Let's go inside and talk. Jian Ruyu didn't consider herself an outsider at all, and gestured for Lu Yi to open the door to the cave mansion. Lu Yi looked puzzled. It has to do with me. As he opened the door to the cave mansion, he reminisced, and then thought of something, feeling a bit odd. Is it the sword heart fruit? Jian Ruyu smiled and pinched Lu Yi's face, praising, Junior brother is really smart. It's indeed because of the sword heart fruit. Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu entered, and after Jian Ruyu sat down, she said with a smile, hurry up and get some wine. I've been in closed cultivation for these years and it was stifling. I've missed your spiritual wine and spirit food. Seeing Jian Ruyu's demeanor, Lu Yi smiled helplessly and took out some spiritual wine and spirit food. You have new spirit food and spiritual wine. Jian Ruyu sipped the wine with a smile and then sighed contently. Lu Yi said speechlessly, Senior sister, can you start explaining now? Jian Ruyu began with a smile. Originally, I had a natural sword bone, and after you gave me the sword heart fruit, it helped me develop a sword heart. The resonance between the sword bone and sword heart resulted in a sword immortal body. By a fortunate coincidence, senior sister here has turned into an immortal body. An immortal body, you see. Lu Yi's eyes widened in astonishment. He hadn't even thought of Yunzai becoming an immortal body when he gave her the 9-colored bellflowers. Let alone when he gave Jian Ruyu the sword heart fruit before. Lu Yi didn't have this idea at all. But when he thought about it, although the sword heart fruit wasn't as remarkable as the 9-colored bellflowers, it was still an extremely precious and rare heavenly material and earthly treasure, not far from an immortal treasure. Moreover, Jian Ruyu herself was a heavenly pride with a spiritual body level and belonged to the divine sword sect, a sword Tao sacred land, where she cultivated immortal scriptures and comprehended sword intent. Now that she had transformed into an immortal body, Lu Yi felt it was reasonable indeed. Then thinking of something else, Lu Yi's expression subtly changed, appearing a bit odd. Senior sister Ruyu, shouldn't the transformation from a mortal body to an immortal body be accompanied by an anomaly? How come there was no talk of such a grand anomaly occurring at the divine sword sect? Jian Ruyu wrinkled her nose and rolled her eyes at Lu Yi, saying in disbelief, Junior brother, what do you think the divine sword sect is? With the immortal sword suppressing it, even if there were an anomaly, it wouldn't be observable from the outside. Realizing this, Lu Yi understood that the reason for the vast anomaly during Yunzai's transformation was mainly because the 10,000 Flowers sect was a normal sect lacking the ability to conceal such anomalies. Immortal bodies are far too precious and important in Tiananmen, and if a sect truly had the ability to cover up anomalies, it's doubtful any sect would let such anomalies spread. Clearly, the Divine Sword sect was capable of concealing anomalies. Lu Yi then remembered what he had heard at Sword Mountain Villa, how Jian Jingxian had mentioned that the old master was alerted and personally taught Jian Ruyu. No wonder, becoming an immortal body was indeed extraordinary. It made sense that the old master was alarmed. Update now, edit later tilde. Chapter 357, 165, Breaking Through the Cave Void Realm. Chapter 357, Chapter 165, Breaking Through the Cave Void Realm. So after that, the old master of the Divine Sword sect personally taught you, Lu Yi said with a smile. Junior brother, how did you know? Jian Ruyu was somewhat surprised. I heard it from Uncle Jian last time I visited Wenjian Manor, Lu Yi explained. I see, Jian Ruyu realized, and then she laughed. I still have to thank you for the sect protection array at Wenjian Manor. Although the divine sword steel suppresses the petty demons, it's always good to be prepared for any eventuality. Lu Yi smiled. It's what I should do. Then Lu Yi curiously asked, Senior sister, why are you heading out now? Jian Ruyu sighed and said, Cultivation at this level, even for an immortal body, has slowed down a bit. The old master asked me to go to the Sea Clan battlefield to temper myself, so I can break through faster. Lu Yi understood. For cultivators to advance in cultivation, They inevitably needed to gain experience and fight, to comprehend their own Tao and discern the direction for progress through great battles. But Lu Yi had the chance for sudden enlightenment every month, and on top of that, his foundation was condensed from the Tao itself, making his understanding of the Tao far surpass that of ordinary cultivators, even those with immortal bodies. Even if Lu Yi simply focused on secluded cultivation, he could make rapid breakthroughs. The battle in the Sea Clan battlefield is quite fierce right now. If senior sister Ruyu is going, you should be careful, Lu Yi warned. I'm well aware of that. You haven't even experienced as many trials as I have, junior brother. Giant Ruyu pinched Lu Yi's face, clearly not convinced. Lu Yi laughed, as long as senior sister understands. Giant Ruyu looked at Lu Yi, and then a trace of light gleamed in her eyes as she smiled. By the way, junior brother, I have not yet thanked you for the sword heart fruit. Lu Yi looked at Giant Ruyu with some confusion. Senior sister, how do you plan to thank? Before Lu Yi could finish, Giant Ruyu grabbed his collar, pulled him over, and then kissed him forcefully. Lu Yi. He was a bit stunned. Was this considered being forcefully kissed? Giant Ruyu was quite aggressive, and Lu Yi could feel the sweet scent coming over as Giant Ruyu tried to pry open his mouth. Lu Yi was a little numb. A forceful kiss was not enough, and she even intended to take the initiative. After all, Lu Yi had spent months in dual cultivation with Yunzai and was now a man. Naturally, he couldn't just stand it. He grabbed Giant Ruyu's hand, pulling her in front of him, and retaliated. Giant Ruyu's eyes widened, then stubbornly applied physical strength, attempting to overpower Lu Yi. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow, surprised. Giant Ruyu's transformation into an immortal body had made her physique much stronger than before. It might even be stronger than that of the heavenly dragon Saint's son. Considering that Giant Ruyu was a sword cultivator, the fact that she had a stronger body than a peerless demon of body cultivation was nothing short of shocking. But such strength was naturally insignificant before Lu Yi. Lu Yi grabbed Giant Ruyu's snowy white hand, pinned her arms behind her with his right hand, and his left hand slid across Giant Ruyu's waist. Giant Ruyu's delicate body trembled slightly, then she quickly turned her head to catch her breath. Junior brother, no. Lu Yi stopped, a mischievous smile on his face. Senior sister Ruyu, you were the one who started this, how can you think of fleeing now? Giant Ruyu's face, filled with a martial aura, was flushed as she said, I came here with Elder Fang Tianyao. I gave Elder Fang Tianyao the slip for a while, and he should be back any moment now. Lu Yi stiffened, somewhat disappointed as he let go. All right then. Seeing Lu Yi's reaction, Giant Ruyu said with a smile, when I return from the Sea Clan battlefield, I'll stay in Qingzhou for a while. Hearing this, Lu Yi understood Giant Ruyu's intention and his eyes lit up. All right. Aren't you going to let go of me? Giant Ruyu was currently sitting in Lu Yi's lap, feeling something unusual, and she glared at Lu Yi huffily. HMPH, how is your body so strong? I thought I could overpower you, but you bullied me to death. Lu Yi smiled. I completely overpowered the heavenly dragon Saint's son when he challenged me to the body cultivation path not long ago. Hearing this, Giant Ruyu was a bit shocked and admired. As expected of my junior brother, you are indeed impressive. Lu Yi let go of Giant Ruyu, who got up, her cheeks still flushed. She downed a glass of wine, then said, By the way, where is Ningxuang? I haven't seen her in a while and have missed her. Senior sister is in seclusion. Didn't you go to see her first, senior sister Ruyu? Lu Yi asked in surprise. Giant Ruyu smirked. If I went to see her first, would I have had the chance to kiss you? Lu Yi felt a bit weird and exclaimed, So senior sister Ruyu, you premeditated this. Giant Ruyu's face turned slightly red, then she revealed a mischievous smile, adopting the air of a dandy as she pinched Lu Yi's cheek. That's right, senior sister has been coveting junior brother's body, tilde. Lu Yi. His face full of resignation, he pulled Giant Ruyu back, who widened her eyes and hastily pleaded, Junior brother, I was wrong. Moments later, Lu Yi finally released Giant Ruyu, and the two left the cave mansion heading towards Liu Ningxuang's cave mansion entrance. By then, Giant Ruyu's face had returned to its usual calm. Lu Yi spoke up, Senior sister Ruyu is here. It wasn't long before the doors to the cave mansion opened, and Liu Ningxuang emerged, appearing like a moon palace immortal. Upon seeing her long-missed friend, even Liu Ningxuang's cool and detached expression broke into a smile as she approached. Ruyu, it's been so long since we've seen each other. How are you today?